Chapter 411. Chen Hao rubbed harder and harder, and the flames of desire burned more and more fiercely. His soul and body felt as if they were about to explode. On the other hand, the strength Chen Shui used to hug Chen Hao grew stronger and stronger. But even then, her throat still couldn't help but emit sounds that caused Chen Hao to go even crazier. Fortunately, Chen Shui's mind was completely blank while her soul was trembling violently, so she was already unable to hear her own voice. Otherwise, she would surely find a hole in the ground to hide in. When Chen Hao's large hand climbed up to Chen Shui's twin peaks, Chen Shui, who was in a state of confusion, emitted a high-pitched moan. The remaining trace of consciousness allowed her to bite Chen Hao's shoulder. She fiercely used a trace of true essence, and her fine silver teeth directly sank into Chen Hao's shoulder. "Don't!" Chen Shui fluttered, entangled, and spat out two words with incomparable difficulty. Chen Hao, who was on the verge of going crazy, but still maintained a trace of clarity in his mind, felt the piercing pain from his shoulder, and knew that he couldn't continue. He suddenly flipped over and performed the great universal shift with Chen Shui, causing Chen Shui to completely press down on his body. He tightly embraced her slender waist that could be grasped with one hand, and held his breath, as if he wished for nothing more than to rub Chen Shui into his body, and he didn't dare to move again. Just a little taste was enough, and it was enough. At this point, if he continued, Chen Hao was afraid that he would lose himself. "Don't move." Just like this, Chen Hao took a deep breath and said in Chen Shui's ear. After he finished speaking, he directly closed his eyes, and in his mind, he ceaselessly swung his sword and killed the monster's thoughts. Similarly, the depths of Chen Shui's mind were fiercely struggling as well. She felt that a certain place was being pushed up, causing her entire body to be scalding hot and soft. At this moment, if Chen Hao wanted to move again, Chen Shui absolutely wouldn't be able to give rise to any thoughts of resisting. Not only that, she even had a kind of impatience. Fortunately, Chen Hao pulled back the horse at the precipice and stopped in time. Both of them used their own methods to eliminate the thoughts in their minds. As time passed, their bodies gradually stopped trembling and relaxed. The fire of lust was extinguished bit by bit. Their spirits gradually became clear and the heat gradually subsided. Only that burning erection was still not under the control of Chen Hao's brain. It proudly pushed against Chen Shui's flat lower abdomen, venting its dissatisfaction. In this state, the two of them entered an ethereal state of cultivation. Early in the morning, the bright and beautiful sunlight poured down on the palace complex. There were small bridges and flowing water, pavilions, and birds chirping and the fragrance of flowers. One by one, the cultivators walked out of the palace. Some went to cultivate, while others went to do missions. The atmosphere became lively. Brother Hao, in Chen Hao's palace, the anxious, depressed, and wronged sisters finally walked out of their room after a night of torment. Seeing that the cultivation room was empty and that the door to Chen Hao's room was shut and that he had activated layers upon layers of restrictive spells, one of them knocked on the door and yelled, "Brother Chen Hao, what are you doing?" "Ah!" Chen Hao and Chen Shui suddenly opened their eyes and woke up from the charming state of cultivation. Their whole body was refreshed. Even if the two of them did not use any dual cultivation method, strictly speaking, they did not cultivate any cultivation method at all. They only meditated and adjusted their breathing. However, the feeling at this moment was better than any other time of cultivation. Their skin touched, their auras overlapped, and there was an invisible effect of yin and yang blending. However, after regaining consciousness, Chen Shui directly let out a sharp cry and crawled away from Chen Hao's body. Her beautiful little face had turned completely red. She, who had burrowed into the blanket, immediately emitted a 1111 soa sound. Hee, voila. Chen Hao's mouth revealed a devilish smile. He suddenly lifted the quilt, causing Chen Shui to scream again. With a hiss, she directly disappeared in front of Chen Hao. Even if Chen Hao's movements were sudden and his eyes moved fast enough, he could not see the charming scene of spring. Bang! The bathroom door in the bedroom directly closed with a heavy sound. Her reaction is so fast. As expected of a half-step to the manifestation realm. Not simple. Chen Hao said to himself with a smug smile on his face. As he spoke, he jumped off the bed and straightened his posture by stroking his little brother, whose underwear was propped up high. After returning to the beautiful sisters outside the door, he put on his robe. Don't say that I appeared. Just as Chen Hao was about to open the door, the bathroom door also gently opened. However, he could not see Chen Shui's figure. Only Chen Shui's voice sounded in Chen Hao's ears. Why? Hearing Chen Shui's words, Chen Hao was a little depressed. How could this girl's concealment skills be so powerful? If he did not have the God's Eye, Chen Hao would not be able to sense Chen Shui when he merged with everything in the world. However, with the high-grade God's Eye, even if he merged with everything in the world, Chen Shui should have nowhere to hide. But now, Chen Hao was blind and could not sense Chen Shui's existence at all. He still wanted to see Chen Shui's shy appearance. So embarrassing, Chen Shui said. At this time, how could she dare to show her face? If the beautiful sisters knew that she and Chen Hao were in the same room and had intertwined for an entire night, how embarrassing would that be? At the very least, before the yin and yang truly merged, she could not let others think that she and Chen Hao were true Dao companions. Otherwise, no matter where they went in the future, the two of them would have to be in the same room. The palace next door is my residence. Call me later. Just treat it as if we met last night, alright. Chen Hao could only agree. Morning. After Chen Hao opened the door, he saw the beautiful sisters sitting in the hall and greeted them with a smile. The beautiful sisters subtly glanced at Chen Hao's room, but it was empty. What are you looking at? You two little brats, sister-in-law is here and you hid it from me. And those guys, they're all asking for a beating. Chen Hao said. Fuck, your sister-in-law taught me a lesson last night. Leng Ninghuan almost called her god-grandmother but Chen Hao quickly interrupted. She lives next door. Wait a moment, I'll call her. Oh, just call her sister-in-law from now on. Your sister-in-law's concealment skills are too good. I'm afraid that she's nearby eavesdropping. Of course, if you want to call her sister, that's fine too. Chen Hao said to the beautiful sisters telepathically as he opened the door and walked out. Seeing that Chen Hao had disappeared in front of them, the beautiful sisters were slightly stunned. Then, they looked at each other with a trace of surprise in their eyes. Sister, he asked us to call her sister. Could it be? Leng Ninghuan looked at Leng Ninghuan and said telepathically. I don't know. Leng Ninghuan said. Then what should we call her? Leng Ninghuan asked. Lele. I'll listen to you. Leng Ninghuan was a coward last night. Her sister was brave. As the older sister, she could not let her sister be the vanguard all the time, right? Leng Ninghuan, who was telepathic, could feel how tormented her sister was last night. Then we'll call her sister. Won't she be unhappy? Since Brother Hao said so, we don't care anymore. Maybe Brother Hao is really interested in us and told her. Lele, you don't dare to do it anymore. Hee hee. That's my good sister. I'm just teasing you. I dared to do it last night. Since Brother Hao said so, why wouldn't I dare? Humph. Luckily Brother Hao said so. Otherwise, I would have done it no matter what. Leng Ninghuan clenched her fists and said majestically. Don't brag. It was so difficult to undo a button last night and you did it, TSK. I was just a little nervous the first time. I won't do it again. The sisters were in a gloomy mood last night. At this moment, because of Chen Hao's tactful and reserved words, they suddenly brightened up. Although there was still a long way to go before the revolution would succeed, the sisters saw hope and sunshine. As long as they did well enough, the revolution would eventually succeed. Of course, they also knew that Chen Hao's words were actually pointing the finger at Chen Shui. There was no problem with him. The sisters were not dissatisfied with Chen Hao's actions. First come first serve, right? Chen Hao was doing the right thing, no matter how you looked at it. Let's go. After a while, Chen Hao appeared in front of the sisters with Chen Shui, who was wearing a blue dress, and said, Sister. Sister Chen. Hello. The sisters spoke majestically, but when they saw Chen Shui standing side by side with Chen Hao, they almost called her sister-in-law. After reluctantly calling her sister Chen, their faces turned red. They did not dare to look at Chen Shui. Their hearts were very uneasy, afraid that Chen Shui would flip out. You're welcome. Thank you for saving his life. When Chen Shui heard the sisters call her sister, she frowned slightly. However, immediately after, she revealed a smile and walked in front of the sisters. She held their hands affectionately and said softly, Songyuan City, Alliance Palace, Core Teleportation Portal. The core teleportation portal could only be used after the Guardian group and the Guardian had reached level 3 and met the contribution points requirements for Songyuan City. This was also one of the ways to leave Songyuan City. It was not the only way, but unless one was a manifestation realm expert, no one would dare to choose the other way. This was because the other way was to walk out of the wilderness. Even if there was no beast tide, it was not something a primordial soul realm expert could pass through. In fact, the range of Songyuan City was just one of the lowest level monster regions in the central mainland. The missions issued by the Alliance were basically all about killing monsters. The Guardian's duty was to protect the entire boundless mainland. Junior sister. Junior sister. Just as Chen Hao, the first king, and the others met up and arrived at the entrance of the core teleportation portal, two figures flew over as fast as lightning. Before they arrived, they shouted excitedly and happily. Junior sister, we finally found you. The two figures directly arrived in front of Chen Hao and the others. One was tall and mighty. Although he was not as tall as the first king, there was not much of a difference. The other was handsome and looked like a pale-faced scholar. Both of them had very young life auras, but they were both at the peak of the half-step to the manifestation realm. Although both of them were in a state of restraint, they could not hide the surging power in their bodies. My friends have been starting new books recently. I recommend a good book, Sword from the East. It is also a new avatar of an old author. This book is said to be a masterpiece that redeems one's moral integrity. It is a good book. Although the word count is still very little, I hope everyone can collect it and kill it after it is fattened up. Thank you. Chapter 412. Their high-profile entrance attracted the attention of many cultivators around them, especially some of the older cultivators. When they saw the symbol on their chests, a hint of surprise appeared in their eyes. Anyone who had truly traveled in the Middle Continent would know that the disciples of Wuji Celestial Palace would not come out alone to train if they did not have the strength of Blessed Realm. This was because Wuji Celestial Palace had countless methods and missions to train their disciples. Of course, the main reason was that the disciples of Wuji Celestial Palace could only obtain the right to train freely after passing the test. And those who could pass the test were basically those who had reached Blessed Realm, and now, the two youths who had appeared were only at the peak of half-step to Blessed Realm. What did this mean? It meant that their strength was absolutely shocking. In addition, their auras were extremely young. This meant that the two of them were absolutely monstrous existences in Wuji Celestial Palace where geniuses gathered. A hint of surprise flashed in Chen Shui's eyes. She frowned slightly and said, Greetings, eldest senior brother and second senior brother. Why are you looking for me? Junior sister, why aren't you wearing the symbol of Wuji Celestial Palace? Master and Palace Master are worried about you coming out alone to train, so they specifically asked me and second junior brother to come and find you. You can train with us. Our strength is about the same, so we can take care of each other. The tall and mighty eldest senior brother looked at Chen Shui with concern and said, Junior sister, are these people your friends? Their cultivation is too weak. If you stay with them, you will only be a burden. I know that you are loyal, but you can't be careless on the path of cultivation. We're not the same type of people as them. Second senior brother, who was handsome and looked like a pale-faced scholar, looked down at Chen Hao and the others with his nose in the air, and said with a sense of superiority and disdain. Although he could see that the people present were rare geniuses, especially Chen Hao who stood side by side with Chen Shui, he was a little surprised, but it was only a little. There was still a huge gap between them. Of course, this was what he thought. Sorry. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, we have already agreed to train together. Also, I am now a member of AO Tian's guardian group. I won't be training with you. Chen Shui's eyes flashed with disdain as she spoke coldly. Then, she looked at Chen Hao and intimately held his arm. Brother Hao, let's go. For the first time, Chen Shui called Chen Hao, Brother Hao. Junior sister, wait. Their expressions changed slightly as they took a step forward and blocked Chen Shui and the others once again. Chen Hao's expression was calm, as if he was not affected by their words at all. On the other hand, Huyan Albua and the others were looking at the two arrogant fellows with disdain on their faces. Junior sister, Hall Master and Master have instructed us to take care of you. Since you insist on doing so, you should bring them along with you. It won't be long before you realize that staying with them will only hinder your cultivation speed. Junior sister, I'm sure you'll realize that staying with them will only restrict your cultivation speed. This is a verbal order from Hall Master and Master. The three of us are the only half-step to Blessed Realm in Winter Plum Hall in 100 years who have successfully passed the test. Hall Master and Master don't want anything to happen to us. Eldest senior brother took out 2 jade slips and handed them to Chen Shui. Chen Shui frowned slightly and looked at Chen Hao. She did not expect her mother to have such an arrangement. The final hall master was naturally her mother, and Master was the vice hall master. It doesn't matter, Chen Hao said calmly as he shrugged. His handsome face immediately exuded a hint of arrogance. You are the leader of AO Tian's guardian group. My name is Jiang Hai, the chief disciple of the younger generation in Winter Plum Hall of Wuji Celestial Palace. I am Huang Wenxiu, ranked second among the younger generation in Winter Plum Hall of Wuji Celestial Palace. At this time, the two looked at Chen Hao and said proudly. That's right, I am the leader of AO Tian's guardian group, Chen Hao, a disciple of a small sect. You can follow me, but if you want to join AO Tian, forget about it. Join AO Tian? What a joke. It is indeed a joke. We, AO Tian, only accept elites, not trash. Don't misunderstand, I am not saying that you are trash, you are much stronger than trash. Chen Hao said with a hint of arrogance on his face. When he saw that the faces of the two people had become extremely ugly, he looked towards Huyan Albua and the others and said, the first and second disciples of the Limitless Immortal Palace's Winter Plum Hall. Are they very strong? Of course they are very powerful. Boss, that is Wuji Celestial Palace, one of the top 3 existences in Wuji Celestial World, how can they not be powerful? There are thousands of halls, and the disciples of each hall are peerless geniuses. To be able to become the first and second disciples of a hall, they are geniuses among geniuses. Huyan Albua said with a look of worship and reverence. At the same time, he looked at Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu with an exaggerated expression. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu's faces showed a touch of pride, and their expressions were even more arrogant. They deeply agreed with Huyan Albua's words, and at the same time seriously despised Chen Hao's ignorance. So powerful? Then they are stronger than trash. Chen Hao frowned and asked. Cough, cough, boss, aren't you talking nonsense? They are definitely much stronger than trash. Let me mention it to you, boss. Alright, brother Hao, since you want senior brother and second senior brother to follow, then let's go. Just as Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were getting more and more uncomfortable, Chen Shui suddenly interrupted Huyan Albua and said. If she let Huyan Albua and Chen Hao continue talking, she was afraid that they would turn hostile. Of course, Chen Shui knew that with Chen Hao's character, doing so was already considered as being merciful. Chen Shui pulled Chen Hao and took the lead to walk towards the core teleportation array. Jiang Hai, this group of people obviously don't take us seriously, they really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. That Qin Hao must be Junior Sister's sweetheart, how about we stop fighting for the time being? When Junior Sister realizes the gap between us and Qin Hao, it won't be too late for us to compete fairly. No problem. The strongest is only at the late-stage primordial spirit realm, how can they compete with us? When the time comes, we just need to do a little trick, and they won't be able to bear the consequences. After inspecting everyone's guardian tokens, Qin Hao and the rest paid 100,000 high-grade primordial crystal stones for each person's teleportation fee. As for Qin Shui, Jiang Hai, and Huang Wenxiu's identity as Limitless Immortal Palace's personal disciples, it was directly free of charge. Great Yen City, located in the southern part of the central mainland, the city was only 1,000 miles in radius, but it was filled with countless cultivators. Before stepping into Great Yen City, Qin Hao and the rest already had a more detailed understanding of the central mainland situation. In fact, the entire central mainland cities like Songyuan City were all located at the edge of the central mainland, and were also the safest cities. 90% of the sects and families were also concentrated in cities like Songyuan City, which could be said to be the cultivators' base. As for Great Yen City and other cities in the central mainland, they basically belonged to the League of Guardians, and only the cities occupied by cultivators were safe. Outside the cities, it was the battlefield between the cultivators and the extraterrestrial beasts. In the central mainland, the frequency and scale of the beast tide's appearance were undoubtedly very terrifying. It was also because of this that the areas of these cities were usually not large, because the cultivators had to set up more powerful defensive restrictions. If the cities were too big, the manpower and financial resources would not be able to support them. Hiss! Hiss! White light flashed as Qin Hao and the rest walked out of the teleportation array. Welcome to Great Yen City. This is the introduction of the Great Yen City's internal facilities and the general situation of the extraterrestrial beasts within a radius of 10 million miles. Go out and turn left, and you'll reach the Alliance Hall. Good luck. Two female attendants standing at the entrance of the teleportation hall respectfully said to Qin Hao and the rest. As they spoke, they distributed a jade slip to each of them. Great Yen City is just a city of the lowest class. There's nothing challenging within a radius of 1 million miles. Junior Sister, the three of us are all half-step to the Blessed Realm. If we're too close to the city, it'll be a waste of time. Huang Wenxiu said directly after he stepped out of the teleportation hall and read the jade slip. That's right. With our strength, we'll have to go at least 3 million miles to train. I think the 100th supply station is good. Let's teleport there directly. Jiang Hai continued. It had to be said that the Ninja Turtle's skills were quite good. After all, because of the appearance of the two, Qin Shui deliberately showed that she was more intimate with Qin Hao. However, the two of them were actually able to ignore it and talk with confidence. The 100th supply station was an area about 3 million miles away from Great Yen City. In this area, extraterrestrial beasts at the initial stage of the Blessed Realm would appear. In the eyes of Jiang Hai and the rest, Qin Hao and the rest would definitely not dare to go there. 3 million miles. Isn't that too exaggerated? Huyan Aobo said, seemingly surprised. Yes, 3 million miles. That's monsters at the late stage of the primordial soul realm. There will definitely be monsters at the peak of the late stage of the primordial soul realm or even half-step to the blessed realm. Jing Tiangang said. You don't dare. If you know your limits, you'd better not drag our junior sister and us down. Half-step to the blessed realm monsters are no challenge to us at all. We really don't dare to go 3 million miles. Boss, can we go to the 130th supply station? Huyan Aobo looked at Qin Hao and asked. It's too advanced. Let's go to the 160th supply station. Qin Hao pondered for a moment and said seriously. The 160th supply station was 5 million miles away from Great Yen City. The density and level of the monsters there were much higher. Even mid-stage Blessed Realm monsters could be encountered there. Did you make a mistake? Huang Wenxiu asked, a little puzzled. Mistake? What mistake? It's up to you whether you want to go or not. We can't drag the two of you down. Also, don't drag Xiao Shui along just because you're from the same sect. Xiao Shui is now a member of Proud Heaven, so she has to obey my orders. A mid-stage Blessed Realm monster will appear at the 160th supply station. Are you sure you're not mistaken? Jiang Hai asked. Chen Hao looked at Jiang Hai as if he was looking at an idiot and ignored him. He said to the rest, let's go and register. Chapter 413. Is this okay? Don't try to drive them away. Chen Shui said to Chen Hao. Don't worry. Don't underestimate Huyan Albua and the others. If they fight alone, they are definitely a bit weak. But if they join forces and form a battle formation, your two idiot senior brothers will only be trampled. It's okay to be careful. Moreover, the 160th supply station is near a million-year-old volcanic area. There may be something I need. Chen Hao said. What do you need? A kind of spiritual object that can only be found in the core of a million-year-old volcano. It has a certain level of intelligence. I'm going to refine something good, I'm just missing this. When did you learn refining? Chen Shui asked puzzledly. Do I still need to learn? Isn't it just finding precious minerals to refine and condensing some powerful arrays on it? How simple. Chen Hao said. It's not as simple as you say. Refining pills and refining tools are very complicated things. Although I don't know how to refine tools, it is similar to refining pills. It requires a very good understanding of the attributes of various materials. Moreover, it needs a specific ratio to fuse them together. The slightest difference will turn it into scrap iron. Condensing an array is extremely difficult. With your current cultivation, even if you know the refining method, you can't even refine a low-grade spirit weapon. You don't need to worry about this. When the time comes, I will refine something that will shock the entire boundless world. Hee hee. Chen Hao said confidently. In the past year in Songyuan City, Chen Hao had tried everything at the auction houses of the major chamber of commerce. He had also used his connections with the first king, Jing Tiangang, Huyan Albua, Meng Xiao, and Beiliu Yanqing's families. However, he still couldn't find the fire essence jade marrow. The reason why he chose Great Yen City this time was because Huyan Albua had consulted his family elders. This was because Great Yen City had a million-year-old volcano. They can think of such an idiotic method. Just follow them. I guarantee that they will only reach the supply station. They won't even dare to take a step out. Want to get rid of us? Dream on. While Chen Hao and Chen Shui were communicating with each other, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were also secretly communicating with each other. In the Alliance Hall, everyone showed their Guardian badges and Proud Heaven's Guardian badges for verification and registration. Then, they went to complete the free hunting mission. Free hunting missions with no rewards. Any Guardian and Guardian team could accept the mission and increase the level of the Guardian and Guardian team based on the level and number of monsters killed. Relatively speaking, he had more freedom. This was also the method most Guardians would choose. Of course, the prerequisite was that they had to sell the monster cores and precious materials to the Alliance Commerce Association at a low price. Otherwise, even if there was a recording device, it would be ineffective. It would not increase the level of the Guardian and the Guardian team, nor would it obtain points. More than 10 minutes later, everyone stepped onto the teleportation circle and appeared directly at Relay Station 160, which was also the supply station. So hot. The moment they appeared, they were surrounded by a heat wave. Even though they were all Essence Soul Realm experts, they felt as though they had entered a boiler. With everyone's cultivation, they had long reached the point where they were immune to both heat and cold. Even on a scorching hot day, they would not feel the slightest bit hot. Obviously, this was not just pure heat, but the extremely thick fire attribute energy that permeated the air. This was still within the protective barrier of the relay station. What if they were in the wilderness? There were many huge palaces in the middle, and countless cultivators shuttled back and forth in the relay station. 1 out of 10 people was an early-stage creation realm expert, and most of the others were half-step to creation realm. After Chen Hao and the others appeared, they attracted many people's attention. They don't even have a creation realm expert leading them, and they dare to come here? Those 2 teenagers are disciples of Wuji Immortal Palace. No wonder. They must be top geniuses. These guys are not simple. They are at most in their 20s, many cultivators whispered to each other. However, they only took a few more glances and hurried past without stopping. However, senior brother, isn't that Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu from Wuji Immortal Palace's Winter Plum Hall? Hundreds of meters away, one of the more than 10 people who were walking towards the protector's residential area recognized Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu when he saw Chen Hao and the others. The early-stage creation realm expert who was addressed as senior brother heard the words of the person beside him and immediately looked over. After confirming the other party's identity, he immediately said, "Don't let them find out. When I was in the early-stage Essence Soul realm, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu almost killed me. This time, I want to see how they fight with me." Senior brother, the one in the blue dress is Chen Shui, who emerged in Winter Plum Hall in the past 6 months. I heard that Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu even fought over Chen Shui. I also saw her 3 months ago when I went with the disciples of Wuji Immortal Palace to reinforce the beast tide in Elephant City. She is indeed outstanding. The twin sisters are not bad either, and they are from the Demon Dao. Looks like we are really lucky. The 2 of you hide at the entrance. If they go out, inform me immediately. They don't even have an expert to lead them, and they dare to come out for training. They are really looking for death. Go to the pagoda monument and take a look. Remember their names and information. Yes. Chen Hao and the others did not expect to be targeted the moment they appeared here. Moreover, the other party was an existence that was on par with Wuji Immortal Palace. They were super geniuses of Wuji Immortal Palace. The competition between the 3 top forces was like fire and water. The disciples of each sect often interacted with each other. There were countless deaths and injuries. Ordinary people did not dare to make a move against the 3 top forces, but there were no scruples between the 3 top forces. However, killing was not allowed in any city or supply station. No one dared to violate this rule. Otherwise, they would be hunted down by the Alliance. However, in the wilderness, no one cared about the fights between practitioners. Killing and robbing, as well as fighting between forces, were not uncommon. This is the ranking. There are so many creation realm experts. Damn, they are really strong. What are you afraid of? The strongest here is only at the early stage creation realm. Moreover, they are competing in battle results, not dueling. That's right. Proud Heaven's fame will start from here. Ha! This is the real highlight. Boss, let's print it. When Chen Hao and the others followed the flow of people to the entrance of the Alliance's palace, 2 golden pagoda monuments that were 10,000 feet tall appeared in front of them. One of them was a guardian group, and the other was an individual. The names of all the practitioners who came to the 160th supply station would definitely appear on the 2 pagoda monuments. The higher the level of the monsters killed and the greater the number of monsters killed, the higher the ranking. Moreover, unlike the outer regions like Songyuan City, from now on, Chen Hao and the others' battle results would appear in the entire alliance of the Middle Mainland. However, they still had a long way to go if they wanted to enter the overall ranking of the Middle Mainland. The 2 rankings here were the rankings of the 160th supply station in Dian City. It was constantly refreshed, and every month, it would be reset to 0, and the rankings would be reset. Before the reset at the end of the month, the Guardian group and individual who ranked first would receive a large reward from the 160th Supply Station Alliance. This was the origin of the fame of all the practitioners in the Middle Mainland's cultivation world. Looking at the excited expressions of the crowd, Chen Hao's eyes flashed with a trace of passion. He took out the Proud Heaven Guardian Group's token and printed it on the notch of the ranking list. A golden light flashed. Proud Heaven, Level 3 Guardian Group, Leader Chen Hao. A row of words and Proud Heaven symbol appeared at the bottom of the pagoda monument. Number 23,942. This meant that supply point 160 had close to 24,000 Guardian Core. Furthermore, what was striking was that Proud Heaven was the only Level 3 Guardian Core. Most of them were Level 4 and Level 5, and there were a few Level 6 Guardians. How coquettish. I'm afraid there's no hope for this month. Next month, Proud Heaven will definitely suppress all the Level 4 and 5 Guardian groups. Ha! Huyen Albua said proudly. Do you even need to say that? Our goal is to be number 1. Gao Dazhuang stared at the pagoda monument and said disdainfully. As for First King and the others, they also had a trace of arrogance, as if they did not feel that Huyen Albua and Gao Dazhuang's words were inappropriate. These guys are frogs at the bottom of a well. Why are they still pretending? Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu said disdainfully in their hearts. In their opinion, Chen Hao and the others must be toads propping up a table, stubbornly holding on to it. He reckoned that it was just for show. Even if they wanted to go out, they would just wander around the supply station. It was nothing more than a show in front of them. Immediately after, Chen Hao and the others imprinted their Guardian tokens on the personal battle record rankings. It showed their name, Guardian's level, and Guardian group. Chen Hao, Huyen Albua and the others were Level 3 Guardians, while Chen Shui, Jiang Hai, and Huang Wenxiu were Level 5 Guardians. However, all 16 of them appeared at the bottom of the pagoda monument with 0 battle records. Let's go and stay in the Guardian's palace. Rest today and adjust to your best condition. We will set off tomorrow morning. Chen Hao said. Okay. Chen Hao and the others rented a small palace that could accommodate 20 people. However, when Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu wanted to follow in, Chen Hao did not even need to say anything. Huyen Albua, Jing Tiangang, and the others rejected the two of them outside the door. Fortunately, Chen Shui did not want to embarrass the two of them and made an exception. She let the two of them in, but Huyen Albua extorted the rent of the entire palace, which was equivalent to everyone staying for free. The two of them were so angry that their teeth itched. Phew! After entering one of the rooms, Chen Hao went straight to the cultivation room and sat down with his legs crossed. His eyes flickered with brilliance. I hope I can find the fire essence chalcedony here. Chen Hao said in his heart, there are many early-stage blessed realm experts here. These guys trust me to the point of blindness. I also hope there is no great danger. If Chen Hao was alone, or with Chen Shui, he naturally had nothing to fear. Even if an early-stage blessed realm expert came looking for trouble, he would not be able to take advantage of them. However, if Huyen Albua, the sisters, and the others were here, it would be hard to say. After all, blessed realm experts already had the ability to tear through space and fly. This was something that Chen Hao could not do. This had nothing to do with battle strength, but it was an ability unique to the realm. It was also because of this that Chen Hao was very eager to obtain the fire essence chalcedony. Because once he succeeded in fusing with the old god, he would have powerful alchemy and refining abilities. At that time, with his powerful knowledge from his previous life, he would definitely be able to create something that would cause a sensation in the entire cultivation world. P.S. Sorry, today's update is a bit too late. Fortunately, I finished 2 updates. Also, I implore brothers and sisters to vote for Aotion. As long as you read the original version, you will have a free vote, and you can only vote for Aotion. Don't waste it. Remember to vote full marks. Thank you. Chapter 4:14. The next day, at dawn, Chen Hao and the others left the supply station and stepped into the wilderness. Intense fire attribute energy filled the air, and it was obviously several times more powerful than the supply station. Whether it was the bumpy ground or the endless mountains in the distance, everything was black with a tinge of red, constantly emitting heat. In this kind of environment, even ordinary humans would be burned to ashes, let alone plants. Therefore, there was no green at all. Awoo. Die. Rumble. 2 hours later, after the group had traveled a full 10,000 miles to the south, the aura of monsters became stronger, and from time to time, the sound of cultivators and monsters fighting could be heard. Although the Proud Heavens members were slightly nervous, they were more excited. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu's expressions were not so flattering. Although they were not trembling with fear, they were at least apprehensive. Until this morning, when they set off, the two of them thought that Chen Hao and the others were just scaring them, but now it seemed that this group of guys was really a suicide squad. It should be known that around the 160th supply station, even the weakest monster group usually had thousands of monsters, among which at least 100 were at the peak of the late-stage nascent soul realm, a few half-step to the creation realm, and one half-step to the creation realm monster commander. The rest were basically monsters at the early stage, mid-stage, and late-stage nascent soul realm. Although the two of them were confident that they could kill monsters at the early stage creation realm, that was in a one-on-one situation. Would thousands of monsters give you a chance to fight one-on-one? Many ants could bite an elephant to death. The two of them were sure that if they encountered any monster group, they could only run. The only thing they could do was to hunt down the monsters that were alone. But now, after going a full 10,000 miles, Chen Hao and the others avoided some monsters that were alone, saying that it was a waste of time. Wait. If you don't want to die, go around. There's a monster group of more than 10,200 miles ahead. When the group moved another 200 miles or so, Huang Wenxiu, who was at the back of the group, suddenly said. Hearing Huang Wenxiu's words, Jiang Hai frowned slightly and stopped abruptly. In terms of perception, he was inferior to Huang Wenxiu. In this wilderness filled with the aura of monsters, Chen Hao and the others were not the only ones who had to hide their auras. The extraterrestrial monsters with human intelligence would also hide their auras. The cultivators were hunting them, and they were also hunting the cultivators. Therefore, under normal circumstances, it was not strange that they did not notice the monsters even when they were within 100 miles of them. For Huang Wenxiu to be able to sense it 200 miles in advance was already quite impressive. If you're afraid of death, then scram. Chen Hao suddenly turned around and stared at Huang Wenxiu and Jiang Hai. His eyes shone with a sharp light and his expression was cold. He had clearly restrained his aura, but it still shocked Huang Wenxiu and Jiang Hai. They couldn't help but take a step back. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, since you want to follow me, then follow Brother Hao's arrangements. If you think it's dangerous, then go back. Chen Shui said with a frown. Huang Wenxiu's expression became extremely ugly. In front of Chen Shui, he was actually intimidated by Chen Hao's gaze and took a step back in fright. When he heard Chen Shui's words, he felt his face burning. His eyes were full of provocation and resentment as he looked at Chen Hao. Suppressing his anger, he said to Chen Shui, Junior sister, I'm worried about your safety. Since you're not afraid, then we'll continue forward. When the time comes and they die, don't blame me. Bang! Without any warning, Huang Wenxiu felt his vision blur. Before he could react, he felt a sharp pain in his buttocks, accompanied by a terrifying force that sent him flying like a cannonball. If you fucking blabber again, then scram. Chen Hao's cold and arrogant voice rang out. No one expected Chen Hao to suddenly flip out. What was even more unexpected was that Huang Wenxiu, a half-step to the peak of Manifestation Realm and a super-genius disciple of Winter Plum Hall of Wuji Immortal Palace, could not even react before Chen Hao sent him flying with a kick. Although Chen Hao had taken everyone by surprise, it still shocked everyone present. The speed he displayed in that instant was completely beyond everyone's imagination. Even Huyan Aobo and the other fellows who were with Chen Hao every day gasped. On the other hand, Chen Shui was similarly surprised. Even though she understood how abnormal Chen Hao was, but exactly what extent Chen Hao had progressed to after being separated for a year wasn't something she was able to imagine. Jiang Hai felt his hair stand on end as he looked at the insufferably arrogant Chen Hao in shock. Was he really only at the late stage of the primordial soul realm? He was certain that if he had been the one who had been kicked by Chen Hao, he would not have been able to react in time. Moreover, his situation would not have been any better than Huang Wenxiu's. You're courting death. Huang Wenxiu, who was in mid-air, was stunned for a moment before he understood what had happened. This was simply a great humiliation. He was at the peak of the half-step to the manifestation realm and the second disciple of Winter Plum Hall of Wuji Immortal Palace, but he had been sent flying by a nameless kid at the late stage of the primordial soul realm. If he did not get back at him, where would he put his face? In his rage, he had completely forgotten how he had flown. At this moment, a violent energy rose from his body. Second senior brother, if you still want to follow, then stop. Chen Shui knew that if she let Huang Wenxiu attack again, there would probably be internal strife before the monster was killed. Of course, the result would be Huang Wenxiu's miserable state. Although Chen Shui did not have a good impression of Huang Wenxiu and Jiang Hai, they were from the same sect after all. Moreover, they had come for her. Even if she did not give them face, she had to give some face to the deputy hall master. If they became mortal enemies, it was not something she wanted to see. You're no match for Brother Hao. How is that possible? Huang Wenxiu looked at Chen Shui in front of him and said in disbelief. Don't embarrass yourself, we've all underestimated him. At that moment, Jiang Hai, who was also looking terrible, said to Huang Wenxiu through voice transmission. Ow ow ow. Bang bang bang. At that moment, a black mass of monster figures charged toward the group in a frenzy. Obviously, the release of Huang Wenxiu's aura had caused the monster horde 200 miles away to discover them. That kid's speed is so fast. He's at the late stage of the primordial soul realm and is comparable to the early stage of the manifestation realm. He's much stronger than when I was at the half-step manifestation realm. 500 miles behind Chen Hao and the others, among a group of cultivators who had completely concealed their aura, a figure in the lead said in surprise. Senior brother, what's wrong? Hearing that figure's words, the other disciples with lower cultivation immediately asked. These people were the genius disciples of Wuji Immortal Palace. When Chen Hao and the others had just stepped out of supply point 160, they had followed them from afar. In order to prevent Chen Hao and the others from discovering them, they had always maintained a distance of 500 miles. At such a distance, only cultivators in the initial stage of Blessed Realm with stronger senses could sense them. Among the 18 people present, only the leader, who was addressed as senior brother, could sense the situation of Chen Hao and the others. It's nothing. Huang Wenxiu and Jiang Hai were not in the same group as the third-level guardian group, Ao Tian. Huang Wenxiu had just clashed with the group leader, Chen Hao. He did not expect that Chen Hao's strength was actually not inferior to Huang Wenxiu's, in terms of speed. However, there was nothing to be afraid of. They had already been discovered by a monster horde, there were nearly 10,000 of them, and there was at least one monster commander in the initial stage of Blessed Realm. These guys are really digging their own graves. Maybe we don't even need to do anything. You should be able to sense it now. Ah. Hearing the leader's words, everyone released their senses one by one. Due to the release of the aura of Chen Hao and the others and the monster horde, everyone could easily sense the situation of Chen Hao and the others. They're not running. Someone said in surprise. These guys must be super geniuses from a small place, and it's their first time training in the central mainland. They're all overconfident guys who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Everyone discussed. Let's go. We'll get closer and outflank them. Be careful to hide your aura and keep an eye on the opponents arranged for you. Listen to my orders. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu must be killed in one blow. Otherwise, if they activate the will of a celestial prime, I'll have to spend a lot of effort. Yes. Xiao Shui, I'll give you the commander monster in the initial stage of primordial soul realm. Is there a problem? Looking at the monster charging at them at an alarming speed, Chen Hao's expression turned solemn as he spoke. No problem. Hiss. As soon as Chen Shui finished speaking, she disappeared without a trace, leaving not even a trace of her aura. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu immediately revealed a look of surprise. This was one of the supreme concealment techniques of Wuji Immortal Palace. Unfortunately, although the two of them were extremely talented and had tried to cultivate it, they could not see through it and could only sigh. They did not expect that Qin Shui, whose strength was almost the same as theirs, would succeed in cultivating it. Boss, sister-in-law. Huyan Aobo frowned slightly and looked at Qin Hao as he spoke. Don't worry, Qin Hao said. I won't take part in this battle. Xiao Shui will take care of the Blessed Realm monster. I'll leave the rest to you guys. Is there a problem? We'll definitely complete the mission. Don't worry, boss. Form the formation. Whoosh. Whoosh. In an instant, Huyan Aobo, the sisters, Meng Xiao, and the others skillfully formed a circular battle formation with Qin Hao as the core. Their expressions were solemn, and their fighting spirit rose. At the same time, everyone's body emitted a wave of energy. In an instant, everyone's energy merged in a mysterious way. At that moment, Qin Hao looked at Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu, who were isolated outside the battle formation, and said, Why aren't the two of you running away? Who do you think we are? If you're not afraid, do you think we are? I thought you were amazing, but you let junior sister deal with a commander monster alone. You call yourself a man? Jiang Hai, let's help junior sister. Alright. At worst, we'll just die. Jiang Hai said in a deep voice. Boom. Clang. The two of them immediately activated their energy and unsheathed their swords. However, they did not rush out. Although they could not sense Qin Shui's aura, they knew that Qin Shui was definitely nearby. They knew very well what the weakness of the Sculpting Heart Sutra, which had fused with everything in the world, was. Seeing the two of them like this, Qin Hao's cold gaze softened slightly. However, his handsome face was still unusually solemn. His sword-like eyes stared straight at the monster that was about to rush over. His entire person seemed to have turned into a statue. His figure was tall and straight, and he stood with his hands behind his back. The second update will be a little late. I suggest you watch it tomorrow. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Chapter 4:15. However, the aura around Qin Hao's body had been completely restrained. In the eyes of everyone present, even the aura of life had completely disappeared. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were very disdainful. In their eyes, Qin Hao was just showing off. They could not deny that Qin Hao's kick had already made them realize Qin Hao's strength, especially his speed. However, even if Qin Shui could kill a monster commander in the initial stage of Blessed Realm, how long could they last under the attacks of the monster horde with just a few people? Yet Qin Hao still wanted to be a boss who did nothing. However, Huyan Aobo and the others were not dissatisfied at all. It was impossible for them not to be worried. After all, they had never encountered such a terrifying monster horde before. Moreover, the monster horde's level was definitely the highest they had ever seen. However, Qin Hao's calmness and even disdain when facing the monster horde gave them endless confidence. In their eyes, this was their boss's test for their cultivation during this period of time. It was especially so for this mysterious battle formation that shocked them. The Phaseless 12 Constellations Formation. This was a battle formation that Qin Hao had specially created for the 12 people. It combined the strengths and weaknesses of the 12 people and could bring out everyone's combat strength to the greatest extent. The day before they left Songyuan City, everyone had already finished practicing. They had also been training in the 800 times gravity field for many days. Today was their first real battle. Aside from Qin Shui, who had already hidden herself in the world, no one knew that Qin Hao, who stood in the middle of the battle formation, had already changed into one of his clones. 500 li of perception was nothing to Qin Hao and Qin Shui, who had powerful souls. Even if Qin Hao did not have the God's Eye, the 18 people from Limitless Demon Palace would not be able to escape from Qin Hao and Qin Shui's powerful perception, let alone the fact that he had the God's Eye. This was especially so when the 18 people thought that they were absolutely safe. They did not even change their tracking route at all. They maintained a distance of 500 li of perception behind them. It was really too clumsy. It could be said that their every action was under the surveillance of Chen Hao and Qin Shui. Even their conversation didn't escape the ears of the two of them. This trouble was obviously because of Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu. However, Chen Hao could not ignore it. There was no other way. Although the two of them had thoughts about Qin Shui, they were still from the same sect. Even if Chen Hao did not care, Qin Shui still had to care. Otherwise, if something really happened to the two of them, and Qin Shui clearly had the ability to help but ignored it, he would not be able to explain to Limitless Immortal Palace. Especially when they guessed that the other party might be a disciple of Limitless Demon Palace. In addition, those guys had already included Qin Shui and the others in Huang Wenxiu and Jiang Hai's camp, so the two of them had to take care of it. Bang bang bang, fuck. How are these monsters? Damn it, they are simply a well-trained army. It was the first time Huyan Albua and the others saw such a scene. Who cares, brothers and sisters? Boss wants to test our strength. No matter what, we have to fight beautifully in this battle. Yes. Kill them. Chi chi. Seeing that the monsters had already formed an encirclement, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu looked at each other and attacked at the same time. Boom boom. At this moment, the strength of a half-step to blessed realm exploded without restraint. The goal of the two was very simple. It was to create an opportunity for Qin Shui, who was hidden. It was clearly not an easy task to rush to the commander monster's side through the dense horde of monsters. But at this point, they could only charge with all their strength. Roar roar. In an instant, a great battle broke out. A wave of monsters charged directly towards the battle formation formed by Huyan Albua and the others, while another wave rushed towards Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu. The huge bodies of the monsters charged forward like giant tanks, charging forward without any fear of death. The tall and mighty Jiang Hai moved freely, while Huang Wenxiu was like a fish swimming in the water. The two obviously had a close cooperation, and their cooperation was quite perfect. Huang Wenxiu lured, and Jiang Hai attacked. Facing the first wave of monsters that were relatively low level, there was a monster's throat cut almost every minute. The 12 constellations formation formed by Huyan Albua and the others was even more impressive. Although the individual combat strength of the 12 people could not be compared to Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu, the hunting speed of the battle formation was more than 10 times faster than the two. What did this mean? This meant that every few seconds, a monster would be killed. The strength of these two fellows is quite impressive. Yi Zichen thought. Huyan Albua and the others could not help but praise in their hearts after seeing the battle between Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu. They are actually so strong. However, compared to Huyan Albua and the others, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were even more surprised. When the 12 people formed the battle formation, they were a little surprised because they could feel the power of the battle formation from the mysterious aura. Moreover, it was a battle formation that they had never seen before. At this moment, the lethality displayed was even more shocking. The two of them were more or less ashamed. Not only did they underestimate Chen Hao, but they also underestimated everyone in Outyan. Especially, they were the geniuses of Limitless Immortal Palace, and their realm was higher than Chen Hao's, but their killing efficiency was completely inferior. How could they not be ashamed? Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, don't be rash, save some strength. Our enemy is not just the monster horde. Just as Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were feeling embarrassed and were about to kill with all their might, Qin Shui's cold voice suddenly rang in their ears. Junior sister, what do you mean? The two of them immediately locked onto Qin Shui's mind and asked with slight surprise. When we came out of the supply point, we were followed. There are 18 of them. They should be disciples of Limitless Demon Palace. They are targeting the two of you. What? Hearing Qin Shui's words, their expressions changed. One of them is an early-stage manifestation realm expert, 10 of them are half-step to manifestation realm, and 7 of them are at the peak of late-stage primordial soul realm. Qin Shui ignored their shock and spoke again. Who are they? I don't know, this is what they look like. As Chen Shui spoke, she condensed the appearance of the 18 people from Limitless Demon Palace and transmitted it to Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu's minds. It's him. He has advanced to the manifestation realm. When the two of them saw one of the images, they were shocked. Oh no. Junior sister, why didn't you say so earlier? This person is the chief disciple of Limitless Demon Palace's Heartbroken Hall, Soul Fighter. His combat power is unfathomable. A year ago, second junior brother and I were both at the mid-stage primordial soul realm. We met him during a beast tide mission in Dingjun City. That guy is despicable and shameless. He took advantage of the chaos to attack second junior brother and I. Both of us worked together to severely injure him, but he still managed to escape. At that time, he was only at the early stage primordial soul realm. Now, he has advanced to the manifestation realm. What should we do? If we start to avoid the monster horde, we still have a chance of survival. Jiang Hai said with a trace of despair in his voice. Junior sister, you should leave quickly. With your concealment skills that can merge with all things in the world, even he should not be able to discover you. The two of us probably can't escape. Huang Wenxiu said through voice transmission as he blocked the monsters that were charging toward them. Yes, junior sister. You can comprehend the heart mantra of merging with all things in the world and reach such a realm. Your future achievements will definitely not be something that second junior brother and I can compare to. If possible, avenge us. We have implicated you, and them. What surprised Chen Shui was that the two of them actually said this. The reason why she had told the two of them was that she wanted them to conserve their strength so that they would not be killed by the other party in one move and be in an irreversible situation. But she did not expect that the two of them would be so pessimistic after knowing who the other party was, as if they were certain that they had no chance of survival. This also made Chen Shui worried for Chen Hao. It was obvious that the soul fighter that the two of them were talking about was very strong. At the early stage primordial soul realm, he could fight against Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu, who were both at the mid-stage primordial soul realm. In the short span of a year, he had advanced from the early stage primordial soul realm to the early stage manifestation realm. What kind of concept was this? It was certain that Soul Fighter did not cultivate the orthodox Devil Dao, but an evil technique. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to advance so quickly. But even if it was an evil technique, it was still too fast. The only reason was that Soul Fighter was extremely talented. What also surprised Chen Shui was that the two of them could actually say such things. Could it be that a dying man's words were kind? One had to know that Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were both arrogant fellows. Especially with their identity as members of the Wuji Immortal Palace, they had developed an arrogant character that looked down on everything. Otherwise, when they had just met Chen Hao and the others, they would not have acted so superior. In fact, Chen Shui also knew that the disciples of the Wuji Immortal Palace were considered normal when facing their own people. But when facing outsiders, they would have an excessive sense of superiority. Not to mention Chen Hao, even Chen Shui felt that they deserved a beating. But this was caused by the environment from a young age. That was why Chen Shui stopped Chen Hao from flipping out. Otherwise, the two of them would have been beaten up by Chen Hao long ago, not to mention following them. It's not time to despair yet. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, be careful. Conserve your strength and show weakness to the enemy. It's best if you can lure them into the monster horde. Brother Hao has already gone to deal with him. Just him. He's only at the late stage primordial spirit realm. Huang Wenxiu said without thinking. But just as he said that, he was shocked and said, he isn't in the battle formation. That's just Brother Hao's clone. His combat power is not something you can imagine. Alright, I'll take care of the commander monsters myself. Be careful. Conserve your strength. When it's about time, hide in their battle formation. Remember to show weakness to the enemy. Chen Shui said telepathically, the time when they attack should be when we can't hold on anymore, especially the two of you. Brothers and sisters who haven't voted yet, please remember to vote for me. Thank you. Chapter 4:16. A doppelganger. His battle prowess is beyond our imagination. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were only stunned for a moment before surprise flashed in their eyes. At that moment, Qin Hao, who was in the middle of the battle formation, had already restrained all of his aura. Even if they could sense whether it was a doppelganger or the real body, it was not important. They could also do this. It was just the ability of the incarnation realm to transform. More importantly, they did not sense Qin Hao's real body leaving at all. What did this mean? It meant that Qin Hao's concealment skills were also beyond their imagination. When they thought about Qin Hao's kick and Qin Shue's words, if the two of them still did not understand how powerful Qin Hao was, they would really be idiots. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu took a deep breath and immersed themselves in the battle. They chose to believe in Qin Shue, or rather, they chose to believe in Qin Hao because this was their only chance of survival, even though they still felt that their chances were slim. There was nothing they could do about it. Soul Fighter's strength had left a shadow in their hearts. A year ago, he had relied on his own strength to fight against the two of them and was only at a slight disadvantage. Today, a year later, even if Soul Fighter was half a step to the blessed realm, they did not have any hope of survival in this situation where they were waiting for the monsters to exhaust their energy, let alone Soul Fighter who was already at the initial stage of the blessed realm. They could not help but feel despair, and now, the only person they could rely on was Qin Hao, who they could not see through. Merge with all things in the world. Soul Fighter, who had been quickly approaching Qin Hao and the others while hidden, frowned slightly when he realized that Qin Shue had suddenly disappeared without a trace. This was one of the supreme techniques of Wuji Celestial Palace. If one wanted to comprehend it, one had to have an extremely powerful soul and comprehension ability. It was also because of this that under normal circumstances, only Blessed Realm experts could comprehend a little bit of it. This was because only after a cultivator reached the blessed realm could they reach the required soul power. Stop approaching. Soul Fighter ordered. Senior brother, what's wrong? I did not expect Qin Shue to have comprehended Wuji Celestial Palace's carving technique. The power of her soul has definitely reached the level of an elite in the blessed realm, and it's comparable to the middle stage or even the late stage of the blessed realm. Ah. Senior brother, do you mean that they discovered us? That's not necessarily the case. If they discovered us, would they still dare to enter the horde of demonic beasts? However, since we're going to make a move, we have to make sure nothing goes wrong. We can't let a single one of them escape. Let's retreat 100 kilometers first, so as to avoid being sensed by Qin Shue. Let's wait for Qin Shue to appear and see the situation. What a powerful battle formation. At this point, Soul Fighter was shocked again. Obviously, Huyan Albua and the others had already begun their hunt. Quickly, back off. Yes. I've underestimated this group of fellows. Looks like they might really have the strength to kill this group of demonic beasts. However, after killing this group of demonic beasts, they've almost reached their limit. Since that's the case, I can only make my move at the last moment. Soul Fighter locked onto the battle between Huyan Albua and the others, his eyes flashing with a cold light. Phew, even Soul Fighter did not know that between them and the horde of demonic beasts, Qin Hao, who had blended into everything in the world, heaved a sigh of relief at this moment. With Qin Hao's current strength, even though he had not exchanged blows with an early-stage manifestation stage expert, he was not afraid at all. However, Soul Fighter was definitely not an ordinary early-stage manifestation stage expert. Even though Soul Fighter had concealed his aura, Qin Hao could clearly sense Soul Fighter's strength with his God's eye. My strength should be about the same as his. Whether I can defeat him or not is still unknown. It's basically impossible to kill him. A manifestation stage expert had the ability to tear apart the void and fly. No matter how strong Qin Hao was, if the other party wanted to escape, he had no way of chasing after him. The only thing Qin Hao could do was to kill him in one strike while he was hidden. He would not let the other party have any time to prepare, and before he could even react, he would die under his sword. Otherwise, in any head-on battle, once the other party felt the pressure, the demon elders would activate. Similarly, a miniature grotto heaven was not something Chen Hao could break open. There are still 10 half-step to manifestation stage experts. Each of them has a strong aura. Even if they are not as strong as Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu, they are not far off. It will definitely be a tough battle later. Even Chen Hao was a little worried at this moment. There was a limit to a person's strength. He was only at the late stage of the primordial soul realm. No matter how powerful his combat strength was, he could not control this battle by himself. Huyan Aobua, the sisters, and the others would face a true test of life and death. Die, beast! After a full hour, Chen Shue's powerful concealment skills carefully avoided the monsters. She quietly lurked to the side of the early stage manifestation stage demonic beast commander. With a shout, she was like a bolt of lightning. She became one with her sword and shot directly at the 300-foot-tall demonic beast commander. Platinum sky-cleaving slash. Chi. Roar. Boom. Seeing that Chen Shue's earth-shattering attack was about to hit the demonic beast commander's throat, the demonic beast commander let out a furious roar that shook the heavens and the earth. A terrifying force suddenly rose, and a gigantic palm covered in scales slapped at Chen Shue as fast as lightning. What a fast reaction! Chen Shue's heart trembled. She gritted her teeth and twisted her graceful body in the air. The mysteries of the space attribute allowed her to move horizontally as if she had teleported. Clang! Puff! Rumble! The sword collided violently with the demonic beast commander's neck. At the moment of impact, the sharpness of the platinum sky-cleaving slash directly pierced through the demonic beast commander's tough scales. But what surprised Chen Shue was that in just an instant, a surge of energy surged out of the demonic beast commander's body. The huge rebound caused Chen Shue to fly high into the air. Immediately, the space rippled, and Chen Shue's figure disappeared from the furious demonic beast commander's eyes. What a fast reaction! What a strong defense! Not far away, Chen Hao, who was paying attention to Chen Shue, was slightly shocked. Chen Hao was able to feel the might of Chen Shue's sword. However, under such a risky situation, she was actually unable to kill the demonic beast commander and only managed to heavily injure it. Roar! Chi! Without giving the demonic beast commander a chance to breathe, Chen Shue, who was gathering energy in the air, once again attacked with the platinum sky-cleaving slash. Rumble! In an instant, 3 slashes were unleashed consecutively. 2 slashes blocked the demonic beast commander's palms. The third slash once again struck the demonic beast commander's neck, which was already bleeding from the wound. It was a clean and efficient attack without the slightest hesitation, causing the demonic beast commander's huge body to suddenly collapse. Roar, 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 roar! The surrounding demonic beasts who had lost the control of the demonic beast commander's mind instantly went crazy. Each of them howled as they charged towards Chen Shue. At the same time, the demonic beasts who were fighting with Huyan Aobua and the others instantly lost their organized attacks. All of them fell into a frenzy. The only thing they had in mind was to tear apart the demonic beast commander in front of them. The scene immediately fell into chaos. Kill! Kill those motherfuckers! Get closer to sister-in-law! Boom! Boom! The intensity of the battle instantly increased by countless times. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu finally stopped caring about their faces when they faced the attacks that came like a tidal wave. They began to quickly get closer to Huyan Aobua and the others' battle formation. At the same time, Chen Shue also lost her chance to hide. She moved around in the densely packed demonic beasts and slaughtered them in all directions. At the same time, she continued to get closer to the battle formation. The demonic beast commander was the key to a demonic beast commander. It could be said that there were more than 10,000 demonic beasts, and every single one of them was under the control of a demonic beast commander. If the demonic beast commander did not die, then no matter how strong Huyan Aobua and the others' battle formation was, they would still be whittled down to death by waves of organized attacks from the demonic beasts who were like a well-trained army. At most, they could only kill a few thousand of the lowest-level demonic beasts. However, once they lost the control of the demonic beast commander, even though they became more dangerous and crazier, it was a good thing for them. Amazing, amazing. This Qin Shui is only a half-step to the Blessed Realm, but she actually killed a demonic beast commander who was in the initial stage of the Blessed Realm so easily. Even I can't do it. In the distance, Soul Fighter was extremely shocked as he thought to himself. However, his eyes shone with excitement. With his strength, it was naturally not a problem for him to kill a demonic beast commander. The problem was that he could not launch a sneak attack like Qin Shui. It could be said that if they encountered the demonic beast commander, they would only be able to meet the demonic beast commander at the end. How could they kill it so easily? Chi! Chi! Boom! Boom! Die for me! Fuck your mother! The incomparably intense, terrifying, and soul-stirring battle lasted for a full 2 hours. At that moment, Qin Shui, Jiang Hai, and Huang Wenxiu had already arrived at the battle formation. However, even so, everyone's bodies were still covered in blood. No matter who it was, all of them had suffered heavy injuries. Moreover, it was obvious that they had used up too much energy. All of them showed signs of weakness even though they wanted to. Only Chen Hao, who was standing in the middle, looked refreshed. His face was fixed on the ground as he watched the battle. However, Hu Yinaobua, Jing Tiangang, Beiliu Yanqing and the others still acted as if they were playing around. Their mouths were filled with profanities and their attacks were wild and ferocious. They were also extremely wretched. This made Soul Fighter and the others, who were watching the battle closely from afar, admire their temperament. Get ready. When it's about time, it's time for us to take the stage. Soul Fighter said coldly, Bai Qi, Kong Bizhang, the two of you must kill Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu in one blow. Yes, senior brother. He Xinsong, Gao Hanchang, capture the sisters alive. Is there a problem? We will definitely complete the task. Chen Ming, capture the one called Meng Xiao alive. Is there a problem? No problem. That Tan Hui is also not bad. Although she has lost her primordial yin, everyone can still play with her. Gong Xinfu, do as you see fit. Kill the rest for me. Especially that Chen Hao. He is still in peak condition. You, and you, the three of you can deal with him. Is there a problem? Chapter 4:17. The three of us are half-step to the manifestation realm. Killing a late-stage primordial soul cultivator is a piece of cake. Don't be careless. That kid can become the leader of this group, so he's definitely not simple. Moreover, the speed he displayed is definitely something that only a manifestation realm cultivator can possess. Yes, senior brother. As for Qin Shui, leave it to me. Soul Fighter's eyes shone with naked lust. It was as if he could already see the scene of him pressing that graceful figure under his body. Rumble rumble, several half-step to the manifestation realm beasts unleashed extremely violent attacks that suddenly pressed down on the already weakened Qin Shui. Junior sister, be careful. I'll do it. Huang Wenxiu and Jiang Hai shouted loudly in fear. At the same time, the two of them turned into two streams of light and charged toward Qin Shui. Rumble rumble rumble, perhaps the three of them had used up too much energy, or perhaps the three of them had suffered heavy injuries that exceeded everyone's expectations. After the terrifying energy collided, Qin Shui, Jiang Hai, and Huang Wenxiu were instantly sent flying. While they were still in the air, they spat out a mouthful of blood and tumbled to the ground. Fuck them. Brothers, protect them. Chi chi chi. Huyan Aobua shouted angrily. The formless 12 constellations formation immediately moved and surrounded the three of them. Sister-in-law, don't worry about the two of you. Focus on recovering. Although we can't hold on for long, killing these beasts is not a problem. Brothers, kill them. Huyan Aobua's cold voice resounded in a radius of 100 miles. Other than Chen Hao, who had remained in the center of the formation and had not made a move, everyone else looked like they were at the end of their rope. Chen Shui, Huyan Aobo, and Jiang Hai sat cross-legged to recuperate because of their heavy injuries and exhaustion. The three of them were pale and covered in blood. "It's time, let's go." Hiss hiss hiss. Seeing that the time was right, Soul Fighter and the rest immediately retracted their presence and turned into streams of light that surrounded Chen Hao and the rest. When they were only 100 miles away from the group, the last beast fell into a pool of blood. Huyan Aobo and the rest of the 12 people who had been bitterly holding on suddenly fell to the ground one by one. They panted heavily as if they had completely given up their vigilance. Die! Die! Get trapped! Ha ha ha! Absorb! All 18 of them, including Soul Fighter, were incredibly excited. Even they didn't expect the final result to be so wonderful. After these guys killed the monsters, they were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. They didn't even have the slightest awareness that danger was coming. When they were within a few hundred meters of Chen Hao and the others seemed to have completely lost their vigilance due to their heavy injuries. The only one who wasn't injured, Chen Hao, even took out a medicinal pill bottle and counted the number of healing pills he had. He even muttered that he was going to waste a lot more. How could they not be excited? The 18 of them locked onto their targets one by one and quietly approached the crowd. When it became a close combat situation, no one noticed, so all of them casually used their ultimate moves that they believed would definitely be able to complete the task. However, fuck off. Idiot. Eat my sword. Die. Chi chi chi, puff puff puff, rumble rumble rumble, without any warning, a terrifying sword light and violent energy suddenly appeared, accompanied by the arrogant and excited shouts of Huyan Aobo and the others. Screams of pain rang out one after another. At that critical moment, Soul Fighter's eyes widened in horror. He thought that the energy he casually released would definitely be able to capture Chen Shui, who was heavily injured and unguarded. But the moment he attacked, a feeling that made his hair stand on end abruptly appeared in his mind. As a blessed realm expert who had experienced countless battles, he had never felt such fear before. He was in a life and death situation, and it was definitely more terrifying than any other life and death situation he had ever been in before. At that moment, he madly gathered all the strength in his body, wanting to avoid the attack that suddenly appeared behind him. But at that moment, Chen Shui, who was clearly heavily injured, also violently released a sword attack. It was a pincer attack. Get lost! A monstrous roar erupted from Soul Fighter's mouth, but his body exploded with a bang and turned into powder that filled the air. He heard his junior brother's screams. The two peak half-step divine transformation realm experts who were responsible for the sneak attack and wanted to kill Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu had their throats pierced. The two people who were responsible for capturing the sisters had their arms detached from their bodies. The one who was responsible for capturing Meng Xiao's head exploded like a watermelon. The ones responsible for killing Huyan Aobo, First King, and the others were in a much better situation, but they were also injured by the counterattack. No one had completed the task given by Soul Fighter. The scene was chaotic. Formation. Their boss is dead, it's up to us now. As the second in command, Huyan Aobo successfully counterattacked, but he did not lower his guard at all. In an instant, the aura of the 12 people who were heavily injured condensed into one, and once again formed the formless 12 constellations battle formation. Everyone knew that this was the time when they faced the real test. Although they were able to catch the enemy off guard and obtain an amazing result in one fell swoop, the gap between their realms made it impossible for them to kill the enemy. Only Jiang Hai, Huang Wenxiu, and Meng Xiao succeeded. Good, good, good. I didn't expect that I, Soul Fighter, would be the one to fail. If I didn't have a high-grade spirit treasure puppet as a substitute, you really would have succeeded. Very good, you all have to die. Chi chi chi. A voice that was filled with boundless coldness and terrifying pressure abruptly resounded from a distance of 3 kilometers away from them. Soul Fighter's body was surrounded by a monstrous devil chi, causing the void to gather dark clouds. Little Shui, you go to the battle formation and be responsible for the sneak attack. Chen Hao ordered. Chen Shui frowned slightly, but soon after, she silently disappeared from where she stood. Jiang Hai, Huang Wenxiu, you two go to the battle formation as temporary reinforcements. If any of the 12 people die, I will take your heads. I will do what I say. Boom. Chen Hao, who had already appeared, his essence qi rose like smoke. He took a step forward and stood between the battle formation and Soul Fighter. Under such a huge crisis, even Chen Hao did not know how tragic the final outcome of this battle would be. He had been holding back until now because he wanted to kill Soul Fighter Mo, who was at the initial stage of Blessed Realm, in one strike. Only by killing Soul Fighter Mo could he obtain a complete victory. However, when he and Chen Shui's incomparably sharp sword light pierced Soul Fighter's body, he knew that he had miscalculated. Soul Fighter's body had only been reduced to powder, and there was no trace of flesh and blood flying everywhere. It was a high-grade spirit treasure puppet as a substitute. Soul Fighter gave the answer. Chen Hao had never heard of it, but he knew that all his efforts had been in vain. Do you think you still have the strength to kill us? Chen Hao raised his sword and pointed it at Soul Fighter. The incomparably sharp sword intent contained a monstrous aura of destruction. Don't think that we are seriously injured. That was just a show for you to see. Also, don't think that we have used up a lot of energy. If I'm not wrong, you have not even heard of the battle formation formed by the 12 of them, right? So what if I haven't heard of it? This is an ultimate formation that has been lost since ancient times, the phaseless 12 constellations battle formation. Not only do the 12 people's aura condense into one, they are also connected to the 12 constellations. They can absorb the spiritual power of the 12 constellations at all times to replenish their energy. If not for their low cultivation levels, it would be a piece of cake for a bunch of useless people like you. Ha ha ha. Do you think I am an idiot? If you really have this ability, why did you say it? Ha. Chen Hao smiled and said, it is because of their low cultivation levels that I cannot guarantee that all of them will survive when they face your attacks. And they are my brothers and sisters. I don't want any of them to die. Sorry, none of them will survive. They will all die. Is that so? If you don't participate in the battle, whose side do you think will die? Don't forget, we still have 3 people. Any one of them is much stronger than your people. If they were to take action in the battle formation, what would the effect be? Chen Hao's expression was calm. His gaze swept across Soul Fighter's people and said, it is not easy for you to cultivate to such a level. If you don't want to die, you better not move. Fuck your mother, who are you trying to scare? Our senior brother can destroy the battle formation with one hand. We will die. After killing the 2 of us and breaking my arm, you still want to talk about conditions? The man whose arm was broken by the sisters said angrily. He won't have the chance to make a move. The corners of Chen Hao's mouth curled up slightly. The aura around his body once again soared at this moment. Kacha kacha, the clear sound of his muscles, bones and tendons vibrating was transmitted into everyone's ears. A surge of blood qi actually rose from Chen Hao's body. At this moment, the exposed skin all over his body was suffused with a bloody metallic luster. His whole body suddenly seemed to have shrunk. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Chen Shui was no exception. Just how strong was his physical body? I didn't expect your body to be so strong, but with just this, you can stop me? Soul Fighter coldly stared at Chen Hao and said. Whether or not I can stop you, we will know once we try. If you don't want your junior brothers and sisters to die, it's best to wait until the battle is over before making a decision. Chen Hao's handsome face became incomparably cold. Boss, don't talk nonsense with them. Just fight them. What's so scary about death? 20 years later, we will be a hero again. No matter which one of us dies, it will not be a loss. At least we will have this group of idiots buried with us. Huyen Aobua interrupted. Yes. Boss, if you treat us as brothers, don't bear the burden alone. Don't worry, as long as I, Jiang Hai, am not dead, I will not let any of you die. Me too. If you want to die, you will have to step over my dead body first. Shut up. Chen Hao directly stopped the crowd and coldly stared at Soul Fighter. Well, Soul Fighter also don't want my brothers and sisters to die in vain. In that case, I will deal with you first. Soul Fighter had no choice but to say. In fact, he did not care about the life and death of his junior brothers and sisters. It's just that when he saw everyone's expression, he already understood that Chen Hao and the others' words had intimidated his junior brothers and sisters. If he ordered the battle to start immediately, naturally no one would dare to disobey. But the fear in their hearts, when faced with a group of people who were not afraid of death, would inevitably lead to a more miserable death. Moreover, Chen Shui, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were the most powerful trump cards, especially Chen Shui. Chapter 4:18. It was obvious that Chen Hao was telling the truth. If a battle were to break out, then even if Soul Fighter's junior brothers and sisters didn't die, they would still suffer heavy casualties. Senior brother, kill him. A mere late-stage primordial soul cultivator wants to stop our senior brother. A firefly dares to compete with the sun and moon. You overestimate yourself. Senior brother, kill him. Who is our senior brother? Even a mid-stage manifestation realm super genius is not worth mentioning. Senior brother, kill him. As soon as Soul Fighter's words fell, the people from Limitless Demon Palace heaved a sigh of relief. From their point of view, Chen Hao was an idiot. If he didn't warn them, they, who were enraged, wouldn't have realized the danger they were in. If that was the case, they would definitely be caught in a chaotic battle and they might have to pay the price with their lives. However, in the end, victory would still belong to them. This was because Soul Fighter's strength had been deeply ingrained in their hearts. But after Chen Hao's words, the outcome would be completely different. As long as Soul Fighter killed Chen Hao, he would join forces with them. Then, whatever bullshit battle formation would be destroyed as easily as crushing dry weeds in front of them. Chi! Boom! Chen Hao took a step forward, and the incomparably hard lava beneath him exploded. His entire body was like a cannonball, shuttling through the lava at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, he had crossed a distance of several hundred feet. When he arrived in front of Soul Fighter, his body shook, and he drew his sword. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom boom boom, it was a simple attack, but it seemed to have sucked in the air within a radius of several hundred feet. Strong winds raged and the air exploded. It was like the surging of the sea and thousands of horses galloping. His entire body was like a demon god soaring into the sky. His skin shone with a faint blood-red crystal. His black eyes were emitting a soul-stirring cold light. His aura and pressure directly blocked everyone's mouths. All of them gasped in horror. No one expected that Chen Hao, who was only at the late-stage primordial soul realm, would be so powerful in one move. Not good. Soul Fighter did not expect Chen Hao to attack at such an astonishing speed. As the chief disciple of Limitless Demon Palace's Broken Heart Hall and an expert in the early stage of Blessed Realm, he was one of the top monstrous geniuses even among the thousands of halls in Limitless Demon Palace. He had the battle prowess to challenge super geniuses, but at that moment, when he sensed the power in Chen Hao's sword strike, he was still shocked. What was left of his pride turned grave, and he did not dare to hesitate. In an instant, streams of pitch-black demon chi shot out from his body and enveloped him in a pitch-black ball of light. Just as the powerful protective light ball was formed, Chen Hao's incomparably sharp sword light, which was as fast as lightning, bombarded the light ball. Rumble. Soul Fighter's body retreated explosively. The light ball vibrated and spewed out layers of pitch-black light curtains, which were like waves of tide, blocking Chen Hao's sword light. Even so, Soul Fighter Mo felt that he was being strangled by an incomparably fierce force, which shook his blood and chi. Chen Hao's figure was closing in on him step by step, like a demon god that could destroy the heaven and earth. He attacked Soul Fighter Mo's mind, making him feel like he was about to be destroyed, strangled, and torn apart. Destructive Sword Will. He has condensed the destructive sword will. Soul Fighter's mind was greatly shaken, and he instantly understood what was going on. At the beginning, Soul Fighter had felt the aura of the destructive sword will on Qinhao's body. Although he was surprised at that time, it was not enough to be shocked. After all, although the destructive sword will was rare in the central mainland, it was not a consummate skill. Moreover, it was one of the most difficult sword attributes to cultivate. But now, Qinhao's destructive sword will had affected his mind. What did that mean? The destructive sword will. Fortunately, Soul Fighter's mental strength was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Otherwise, he would not be worthy of his name. Being suppressed by Qinhao, a mere late-stage primordial soul realm martial artist, from the beginning made Soul Fighter feel humiliated and angry. Roar! Soul Fighter roared angrily, and a violent aura suddenly rose from his mind. All the negative emotions disappeared at once. At the same time, he exerted all his strength to activate the upper spiritual treasure giant sword and blasted it out. Ding, ding, ding. Boom, boom, boom. At such a close distance, Soul Fighter attacked with thousands of swords in an instant, and Qinhao's speed was even more astonishing. The Five Elements sword was like bright fireworks, dazzling the eyes of the onlookers. But every strike seemed to be the first to arrive, completely suppressing Soul Fighter. The onlookers, whether it was Qinhao's side or Soul Fighter's side, were all staring with their eyes wide open. Due to the restriction of their own realms, they did not know how terrifying the power contained in the collision between the two men was. But the turbulent flow of sword light that raged out by the two men instantly left thousands of holes in the hard lava-petrified ground. Each sword mark was dozens of feet deep, and that was enough to explain everything. How can he be so strong? This kid is in the late primordial soul stage. If it were me, I'm afraid I would be killed instantly. Senior brother seems to be suppressed by him. Soul Fighter's people were all aghast. They were all people who had seen the world. As disciples of Limitless Demon Palace, which one of them was not a first-class genius? What kind of genius had they not seen before? But Qinhao, who was only in the late primordial soul stage, was able to fight evenly with Soul Fighter, who was an incomparably powerful existence in their hearts, and even had a slight advantage. This was something that they had never seen before. Boss is so strong. I love Boss to death. This is a man, this is a man. Ah ah ah. Huyen Aobu's face was full of excitement as he roared in his heart. The gaze he looked at Qinhao with was abnormally hot. Fortunately, this guy had a handle. Otherwise, just based on his appearance, he was afraid that people would mistake him for a cat in heat, and the kind that was serious to the point of being horny. Boss is really too awesome. I didn't expect him to be so strong. No wonder junior sister is so infatuated with him. What do I have to compete with him? Master is right, there is always someone better than you. A real genius will shine anywhere. Limitless Immortal Palace. This is ridiculous. I am only the chief disciple of Limitless Immortal Palace. What right do I have to be proud? I always thought that junior sister and I were the best partners, Dao companions. This is ridiculous, ridiculous. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu stared at the insufferably arrogant Qinhao, and a trace of self-mockery emerged from the depths of their hearts. When the two of them saw Qin Shui and saw her rapid improvement, they thought that they had found the most satisfactory Dao companion. They did not give in to each other, and even made the brothers who were close friends and had gone through life and death together fall out and fight. But today, they discovered that not only was Qin Shui's strength beyond their imagination, but when Qin Shui rejected them, the so-called sweetheart was completely beyond their understanding. It was also at this time that they realized how shallow and ignorant they were. At the same time, they were also incomparably ashamed. The love rival that they wanted to suppress had become their savior today. Without Qinhao, they would have died at the hands of Soul Fighter. They were sure of this. Kacha. Kacha. Peng, It took a long time to describe, but in fact, it happened in an instant. What Qin Hao did not expect was that when he pushed his physical strength, true essence, and sword intent to the extreme, and firmly suppressed Soul Fighter, giving him no chance to breathe, the five elements sword that had followed Qin Hao for many years, under the bombardment of violent forces, made a cracking sound. Although it was very faint, it could not escape the perception of its owner, Qin Hao. Not good. The five elements sword has reached its limit. If it breaks, the fusion of the five divine beasts will dissipate. With the increase of Qin Hao's cultivation level, the nourishment of true essence, and the refinement of the five divine beasts, the five elements sword already had the attributes of a high-grade spiritual weapon. But in the end, it could not keep up with Qin Hao's pace. Qin Hao had long been aware of this, but he was not in a hurry to find someone to refine it. This was because his sword would only be the strongest if it was refined by himself. Moreover, Qin Hao and the mysterious existence in his mind were further integrated, and there was only one last material left. When the time came, he could refine it. But he did not expect that it would become a fatal flaw today. The valiant soul fighter was not inferior to him in terms of strength, and the sword in his hand was a high-grade spiritual treasure, which was countless times stronger, causing the five elements sword to be in imminent danger. I must not let the five elements sword break. Once the five elements sword broke, the five divine beasts in Qin Hao's mind would be severely injured. Because the five elements sword was the life of the divine beasts, if the five elements sword broke, the integration of Qin Hao and the five divine beasts would also disappear. How could that be? One had to know that at this moment, Qin Hao and the five divine beasts had truly integrated into the sixth step. How much effort and energy had he expended? Kacha! A clear cracking sound came from the five elements sword. Boom! Awoo! At this critical moment, Qin Hao's blood and qi surged. His muscles, tendons, bones, and even every cell were activated to the extreme in an instant. He withdrew the five elements sword and suddenly swung his palm to meet the piercing sword light. Rumble. The loud and clear dragon roar had just appeared when it disappeared with a terrifying explosion, as if its neck had been broken. Qin Hao was sent flying, and he spat out a mouthful of essence blood in midair. Ah! Ah! A series of screams filled with various emotions rang out. Ha ha ha! Soul Fighter laughed wildly. You are strong, really strong. I, Soul Fighter, have never admired anyone, but you are one. Unfortunately, your sword is too weak. Ha! I want to see how you are going to fight with me. The sound of the five elements sword breaking was heard by Soul Fighter, who bore the brunt of it. How could he not be excited after being suppressed by Qin Hao's strong attacks without the slightest chance to breathe? Hearing Soul Fighter's words, the faces of Qin Shui and the others changed. At their level, everyone knew the importance of a sword. This was not like when they were Hotian realm warriors, where they could casually change to a sword to solve the problem. In a battle, even if Qin Hao still had a sword, but if it was not tempered, even if it was a sword of a higher level than the five elements sword, it would not be able to display its power. Not to mention the unity of man and sword, like an arm and a finger. Chapter 419. I'll show you the true power of the creation realm. Condense. Boom boom boom. Surging life force burst forth from Soul Fighter's body like a torrential flood bursting through a dam. The lava boulders within a radius of several thousand feet instantly exploded as if they had gained sentience. Under Soul Fighter's control, they condensed into gigantic lava giants with terrifying auras and surrounded Qin Hao in the middle. The creation realm had condensed objects into form. The spirit chi of heaven and earth within a radius of several hundred miles surged over. The fire attribute energy, which was the main source of energy, caused the entire sky to turn into balls of burning flames. Qin Shui and the others were greatly shocked, and their eyes widened in horror. They had seen the power of the creation realm before, but the power displayed by Soul Fighter, who was at the initial stage of the creation realm, was definitely much stronger than that of an ordinary expert at the middle stage of the creation realm. Every blade of grass, every tree, every grain of sand, and every rock could be condensed into a powerful monster under the remarkable ability of the creation realm, which was also the creation realm. It was similar to the Taoist technique of casting beans to form soldiers. The monster that was condensed was completely under the control of the spellcaster. What was more amazing was that this was an application of the laws of heaven and earth, which borrowed the energy of heaven and earth. For the spellcaster himself, he only needed to use the energy used to activate the monster. Kill him. Chi chi chi. Bang bang bang, the lava giants instantly absorbed enough energy, and each of them looked like red-hot iron men. There were 100 of them, and each of them gave off the aura of a giant at the late stage of the primordial soul realm. When Soul Fighter gave the order, they violently pressed down on Chen Hao from all directions. The sky and the ground were completely sealed. Damn it! Chen Hao's expression was cold, and a sharp glint flashed across his eyes. At this point, there was no way out for him. The reason why he had held back, and when the battle began, he took advantage of the fact that his opponent had not paid enough attention to him to launch an attack, was to prevent Soul Fighter from using his manifestation stage supernatural powers. But the 5 elements sword's failure had caused all his efforts to go to waste. Fight! With a roar, Chen Hao's speed instantly increased to the limit. Fist shadows, palm shadows, and leg shadows, with a violent posture and an unbelievable speed, he began to fight the 100 lava giants. What surprised everyone was that when facing these lava giants, Chen Hao's energy was completely locked within his body, not leaking out in the slightest. Relying on his incomparably tyrannical body strength, every move he made was met with his fists, palms, elbows, knees, shoulders, legs, feet, and even his head. They all became Chen Hao's weapons. Bang bang bang, muffled explosions continued to ring out. The seemingly incomparably powerful lava giants were actually unable to contend against Chen Hao's fleshly body. Each of Chen Hao's attacks seemed to have been precisely calculated. He had accurately calculated the timing of each lava giant's attacks, and he had even borrowed their strength to create a soul-shaking destructive power. This made Soul Fighter and the others, who had been feeling smug just a moment ago, widen their eyes in shock. Could it be that Soul Fighter's lava giants were all paper tigers? They obviously weren't. Just by looking at Chen Hao's extremely violent yet coherent, smooth, and highly efficient attacks, as well as the power generated when they exploded and turned into rubble, one could understand just how strong a confrontation of strength was. You think you can stop me with this trash? Chen Hao's fighting spirit was completely ignited. He discovered that his 1 year of bitter training in the cultivation hall had revealed a strength that surpassed his own imagination. This was especially true when it came to the cultivation of the gravitational field. Although he had spent most of his time in the gravitational field practicing his swordsmanship, he had challenged the limits of his body time and time again, causing his body to reach an inconceivable degree of toughness. Now that he had completely erupted, it was absolutely terrifying. The sword is just a way to vent one's strength. One is an extension of the arm. The sword's array formation increases one's attack power, and the sword's point condenses one's strength, making it incomparably swift and fierce. If I can use my body as a sword and condense the array formation runes on my body, the only thing I lack is the sharpness of the sword's point. I can't rely on anything else. I don't major in the sword Dao, so why should I be so obsessed with the sword Dao? No sword in the hand, no sword in the heart. My entire body is a sword, why must I use a sword? No one knew that Chen Hao, who was immersed in the battle, had a trace of enlightenment because of the breaking of the 5 elements sword. They only saw that Chen Hao's attacks were becoming increasingly swift and fierce, more and more effective. What surprised them even more was that Chen Hao's entire body was emitting an incomparably swift and fierce sword intent. He was obviously made of flesh and blood, but his palms, fists, and fingers all seemed to condense into rays of sword light. How can he be so strong? Soul Fighter looked at Chen Hao, who was closing in on him at breakneck speed. His eyes were filled with disbelief. None of the lava giants that he had condensed were a match for Chen Hao. A trace of ruthlessness flashed across his face. Soul Fighter knew that he could not wait any longer. He did not expect the 100 lava giants to be able to kill Chen Hao. He only wanted to block Chen Hao's footwork and let him condense his killing move. Die for me, roar. Chi. The dazzling sword light finally erupted, tearing a huge black crack in the void. A horrifying pressure shrouded a radius of 100 miles at this moment. Chen Shui and the others held their breaths. Everyone knew that the real battle was about to begin. No matter how dangerous and terrifying the previous battles were, they were just the prelude to the real battle between the two. The first was Chen Hao's sudden attack, and the second was Soul Fighter blocking Chen Hao's power condensation. At that moment, when Chen Hao easily killed the 100 lava giants, what awaited him was the true power of Soul Fighter, a genius at the initial stage of Blessed Realm. Definitely an instant kill. Definitely. This brat's physical body and strength may be ridiculously strong, but without a sword, he is a toothless tiger. How can he fight against our senior brother? He is seeking his own death. He doesn't have a sword, but he wants to fight in close combat. If that's not seeking death, then what is? Huh? Just when Chen Shui and the others were filled with worry and Soul Fighter's people were filled with anticipation, their hearts suddenly thumped. For the time being, I can't condense runic arrays on my body, and I can't make my body as sharp as a sword. I can't be fierce, so I will be gentle, Russell. In the face of Soul Fighter's terrifying attack, Chen Hao, who was like a King Kong and had been incredibly violent just a moment ago, suddenly stopped moving forward. His aura instantly underwent a shocking change. He had been able to use his body as a sword, and his sword will and the will of the destructive sword Dao had suddenly become incredibly gentle. He was like a flowing stream, a falling leaf that swayed in the wind, or a white cloud that floated in the sky. He floated in the air and was gentle. This was definitely not the essence of Tai Chi, which combines strength and gentleness. It was also not any of the ultimate ancient martial arts that Chen Hao had learned in his previous life. Instead, it was the gentle sword Dao of the secular sword Dao. The secular sword Dao that had always dropped the ball, this time, in Chen Hao's enlightenment, was like a docile lamb, following his heart and moving as he wished. Chen Hao's handsome face was devoid of joy, anger, sorrow and joy. There was only tranquility like water. Under Soul Fighter's violent attack, he was like a falling leaf, carefree and unrestrained, leisurely and carefree. When the enemy advanced, he retreated. When the enemy retreated, he advanced. Soul Fighter felt as if he had sunk into a viscous liquid, suffocating and uncomfortable. Not only was he unable to exert his strength, when he tried to exert his strength, it was as if he had attacked cotton. Layers of gentle, hidden energy slapped against him, until his strength was completely dissolved. Cough cough. Boss is really a perfect person. Huyan Aobo was dumbfounded. The originally nervous him now had countless stars in his eyes, as if he had seen a peerless beauty dancing gracefully. His heartbeat and breathing quickened. What kind of ultimate technique is this? It's too magical. No one knew what kind of ultimate technique Chen Hao was using. If Chen Hao had a sword in his hand, they might be able to imagine it. But at this moment, Chen Hao was barehanded and could not see any mystery at all. The secular sword Dao contained all kinds of sword Daos. Among them, the soft sword Dao was known as the most useless sword Dao. It was also the least popular sword Dao because not many people liked it. The reason was very simple. The soft sword Dao's strongest point was its defense. It was impenetrable and unyielding. If you were soft, it would be softer. If you were hard, it would still be soft. It would soften you to death, suffocate you to death, depress you to death. There was no room for discussion. It was precisely because of this that the swordsmen of the soft sword Dao were usually women. Moreover, they were usually kind-hearted women. Even if you were made of refined steel or a sharp knife, you would still be able to bend it to your finger. You want to dominate the world? Sorry, you will only be forced to become crazy. Soft sword Dao. Only Chen Shui's eyes flashed with excitement. She already knew that the sword Dao Chen Hao had obtained was the secular sword Dao. She also knew that the secular sword Dao was abnormal and difficult to cultivate. Although Chen Hao was not holding a sword, the destruction sword Dao just now and the gentle breeze drizzle still gave her some clues. A woo, rumble. Bang. Bang. Just as everyone was staring at the battle between Soul Fighter and Chen Hao, there was a terrifying beast roar in the distance. Even hundreds of miles away, everyone could feel the earth trembling. It was definitely not the tremor caused by the battle between Chen Hao and Soul Fighter. A monster horde. At this time, everyone finally diverted a bit of their attention and sensed the change. Oh no, what a terrifying aura. Tens of thousands of them. No. In a moment, the terrifying aura of the extraterrestrial monsters spread over. Everyone could not help but fly up into the air one by one. When they saw the dense monster horde, their faces changed in shock. An army of hundreds of thousands of monsters was flying towards them like a torrent of steel. Senior brother, there are hundreds of thousands of monsters. Senior brother. Kill him quickly. Let's run away immediately. Boss, at this moment, people on both sides could not help but cry out. There was no other way. Just looking at the scale of the monsters made everyone tremble in fear, let alone fighting. With just a few people, they would definitely be trampled by the terrifying monster horde. Chapter 420. Kill your mother. If I could kill you, I would have done it long ago. Soul Fighter's face was gloomy as he sensed the overwhelming aura of the monsters. He knew that there was no hope for him to deal with Chen Hao and the rest today. If he didn't escape now, he would have to stay here forever. An army of hundreds of thousands of monsters. How strong was the monster army? How many monsters were in the creation realm? It was absolutely terrifying. Count yourselves lucky. The next time we meet, all of you will die. Let's go. Chi. Soul Fighter's figure flashed as he gave the order. He took the lead and fled into the distance. The people from Limitless Demon Palace also quickly followed. Each of them increased their speed to the limit. No way. This, Soul Fighter and the rest had only rushed a short distance when they were dumbfounded. Countless monsters appeared in front of them. Obviously, the size of the monster horde was once again beyond their imagination. Moreover, they did not know when they had already quietly surrounded them. They were everywhere in the sky and on the ground. There were countless flying monsters, covering the entire sky. This also made them realize that when the monster aura was released, the monster horde had already surrounded them. Under normal circumstances, Chen Hao and Chen Shue's powerful perception should have already sensed it, especially Chen Hao who had God's eye. But this time, whether it was Chen Hao or Chen Shue, they did not sense the huge monster horde surrounding them. Facing the powerful Soul Fighter, Chen Hao was immersed in the battle. How could he spare any attention? And Chen Shue's heart was hanging on Chen Hao's safety. She was ready to take action at any time and did not care about the surrounding situation. As for the others, although their perception was much weaker than the two of them, their attention was also focused on the battle between Chen Hao and Soul Fighter. So, now it was a tragedy. Kill. Take advantage of the fact that the monster horde has not fully formed, kill. In panic, Soul Fighter ordered and suddenly sped up again, leading the people from Limitless Demon Palace to rush in a direction. After Chen Hao jumped out of the state of mind of the soft sword, his expression became unusually dignified. His powerful perception instantly spread out and his heart became more and more shocked. This is the most powerful part of the monster horde. The Guardians and the Guardian Squad usually look for monsters that are alone or small monster hordes that can be dealt with quickly. They're worried that the ripples from the battle will attract the monsters around them. Damn it, it's fine if it's our first time, but don't tell me that Soul Fighter and those idiots didn't know about it. Chen Hao was right. Soul Fighter and the others were indeed inexperienced rookies. Otherwise, such a situation would not have occurred. Boss, what should we do? Huyen Aobo and the others quickly gathered around Chen Hao and asked solemnly. They could sense that no matter which direction they were in, it had already been sealed off. If they wanted to escape, perhaps only the Blessed Realm experts who could tear through the air and fly would be able to do so. In other words, among their group, including the people from Limitless Demon Palace, Soul Fighter was the only one who had a chance of survival. Moreover, the premise was that he wasn't targeted by a manifestation realm monster. What else can we do? These monsters aren't a group, but a group of monsters gathered from all directions. They aren't much stronger than the monsters we killed. Get into a charging formation and fight. Little Shui, you and I will be the vanguard. Kill them all. Chen Hao relied on his powerful perception to identify a relatively weak direction and led everyone to rush over. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in just a moment, Huyan Aobo and the other 12 people formed a sharp triangle with Chen Hao. Chen Hao was the fierce vanguard. Obviously, AO Tian's members had long been well trained in such a charging formation. Before they even encountered the monster horde, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu were once again shocked by AO Tian's battle formation. They couldn't help but be impressed. This group of people who they didn't put in their eyes at first, after forming a battle formation, showed their combat power. It was obvious that their cultivation was higher, but they could only be used as a foil. You two stay in the battle formation. If anyone is in danger, you two go. Yes. Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu had been subconsciously subdued by Chen Hao's imposing manner. After hearing Chen Hao's words, they didn't even think about it and responded in a deep voice. It was as if they were receiving orders from a superior. Aobo, send out a distress signal. Top grade. 1 billion high-grade primordial crystal stones. Time limit, get here in 2 hours, mission success rate is 50%. Save us, mission success. This, boss, where do we get 1 billion? Send it. Yes. When facing a life-threatening situation and unable to resist, any Guardian group can send a distress signal to the Alliance through the token, directly forming an emergency mission. But under normal circumstances, no one would ask for help at all. There were 2 reasons. First, emergency missions required an expensive price that most people couldn't afford. Second, when facing a life-threatening situation, no matter how urgent the mission was, how fast could it be? By the time the person who received the mission arrived, they would have already died. This was also the reason why Limitless Demon Palace and the others didn't ask for help. Moreover, as Chen Hao said, as long as the other party arrived within the specified time limit, whether they died or not, it would be considered as a part of the mission. Moreover, it wouldn't become a bad debt just because they died. The Alliance would directly find the force behind the person who asked for help and pay. But Chen Hao asked for help. A cruel war was about to break out. Chen Hao led the group to form a charging formation, and they displayed astonishing lethality. They were like a flood of steel that charged forward, and no monster could stop their footwork. Soul Fighter and the rest, who were fleeing in another direction, had also formed a battle formation. If not for Chen Hao and the rest, their battle formation would have looked pretty good, and their coordination was also very smooth. However, after seeing the situation of Chen Hao and the rest, and looking at them again, they were simply dregs. They simply couldn't be compared at all. AO. Boom boom boom, as the battle progressed, more and more monsters appeared and became stronger. Densely packed, one couldn't see the end of it. The more Soul Fighter and the others fought, the more frightened they became. In less than an hour, the battle formation they had formed had been utterly defeated. The monsters had been split into several groups and they were now in a dangerous situation where they had to fight alone. What made everyone's faces turn pale was the fact that Soul Fighter, the leader of the group, had abandoned them when he saw that the situation was not good. He had torn open the void and left. Husband and wife were birds of the same fate, but when disaster struck, they flew away separately. What's more, they were just fellow disciples. Soul Fighter's departure was in fact within everyone's expectations. At this point, the only thing they could count on was the demon venerables were left in them by the experts of Limitless Demon Palace. It didn't seem like they would be killed by a sudden attack. Therefore, they gritted their teeth and persevered. Once their lives were truly threatened, they would meet the conditions to activate the demon venerables' will. But, boom. AO. The first guy who couldn't hold on finally succeeded in activating the demon venerable's will. But at this moment, the commander-level monsters in the creation realm, who were thousands of meters away, simultaneously activated terrifying energy that tore through the void. Then, with a loud rumble, the newly formed miniature grotto heaven turned into a huge black hole in front of everyone's eyes. All the monsters within 1,000 feet were directly swallowed. They screamed miserably as they were torn to pieces by the violent and chaotic energy. Sacrifice for me. A person who knew that he was going to die for sure could not care less at this moment. Along with his resolute voice, the essence, energy, and spirit of his entire body instantly burst out crazily. Soon after, a pure and mysterious energy floated out from between his eyebrows. With a chi sound, it fled into the distance at an astonishing speed of 1,000 miles in an instant. Primordial spirit projection. This was the only way they could think of. But, as soon as this essence soul escaped the siege of the monster horde, a faintly discernible, illusory flame enveloped him from all directions. The feelings of fear and despair were shattered in a flash, and he lost all consciousness. Heavenly fire. It had to be said that this was cruel for everyone. Under normal circumstances, when a cultivator sacrificed his primordial spirit, he would be able to escape successfully. The reason was simple. First, after turning into a primordial spirit, his speed would be beyond the limits of his physical body, and he would reach a level where even creation realm experts would shrink back. Second, ordinary attacks were basically ineffective against the primordial spirit. But now, because of the geographical environment, the monsters here were basically experts with fire energy. There were countless monsters who could control heavenly fire. And heavenly fire was one of the main nemeses of the primordial spirit. Dead, we're all going to die, fuck that soul fighter. If it wasn't for him, how could we have died? How could we have been surrounded by monsters? He escaped. What should we do? I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Don't fucking scream, the demon venerables can't save us. We can't activate at the same time, but we can abandon our physical bodies and escape with our primordial spirits. I don't believe that these beasts can stop us at the same time. Now that things have come to this, this is the only way. If no one has any objections, we will sacrifice our primordial spirits at the same time. Whoever survives will be considered lucky. In the end, under the threat of death, more than 10 people clicked together. This was the only way they could escape. Even if it was only their primordial spirits that escaped, and it would take more than 10 years for them to recover their current strength, they could only accept it. At least, after the primordial spirits escaped, there was still hope for a comeback. Boom boom boom. At the same time, the remaining 10 people activated all the strength in their bodies, and their primordial spirits left their bodies. Raging heavenly flames that filled the sky also erupted from the bodies of countless monsters at the same time. More than 10 people fought with their lives on the line, but they were all like the cups on the tea table, none of them succeeded in escaping. Open. Boom boom boom. When Qinhao finally led the group to a lava mountain, Qinhao spread out his 5 fingers, and a violent energy formed a huge palm, which blasted a deep hole in the hard mountain. In an instant, the huge rocks turned into weapons to attack the monsters. Everyone, go in and dig down, keep digging, Xiao Shui and I will guard the entrance. Qinhao's voice was extremely calm. In this life and death situation, he knew that if they were any later, no matter how strong their battle formation was, they would follow in the footsteps of Limitless Demon Palace and the others. Because now, it was not just one manifestation realm monster, but countless of them. Under such absolute power, how could Huyan Albua and the others resist? Chapter 421. Beep 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 beep. In the Alliance Hall of the 160th Supply Station, a series of urgent cries suddenly rang out. The staff of the Alliance, who were receiving the Guardians and the Guardian Corps in the cabinet, suddenly showed a surprised expression. An emergency request for help. An emergency request for help was rare, even in a large city, and the 160th Supply Station would not have an emergency request for help for several years. Someone actually issued an emergency request for help. Quick, connect it. In the cabinet hall, there was a circular platform with a diameter of 300 feet, covered with complicated runes. The runes were densely packed with purple crystals, one of which was flashing rapidly. Beep. After a staff member connected it, the message issued by Huyen Albo was immediately transmitted. When everyone received the content of the message, they suddenly showed a look of shock. A top-level request for help. A top-level request for help. Isn't this too exaggerated? Beep beep beep. In the midst of everyone's surprise, the information of the members of the Proud Heaven Guardian Corps suddenly appeared on the huge display screen. Chen Hao and the others' Guardian level, age, faction, battle record, and other detailed information all appeared in front of everyone. A top-level emergency request for help, 1 billion. These guys are really daring to shout. However, there are a few of them with deep backgrounds. Execute. Yes. An old man quickly scanned the information of Chen Hao and the others and gave the order. Request to connect to the Proud Heaven Guardian Corps. Beep. After a crisp sound, Chen Hao, who was in the middle of a battle, felt the Guardian Corps' token vibrate. Although Chen Hao knew that once the connection was connected, his current situation would be clearly seen by the people of the Alliance, he did not care so much. Compared to the lives of his brothers and sisters, nothing else mattered. He quickly urged his mind and opened the connection between the token and the Alliance. Voila, no way. The dozens of staff members of the Alliance stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen. Through the token of the Proud Heaven Guardian Corps, the huge psychic mirror screen showed the environment around Chen Hao. The densely packed monster horde stretched as far as the eye could see. There was no need to sense the aura of the scene at all. These experienced staff members could determine that the number and level of the monster horde had gathered to a terrifying degree. What surprised everyone even more was the battle between Chen Hao and Qin Shui. According to the information of the two, Chen Hao was only at the late-stage primordial spirit realm, and Qin Shui was only at the half-step manifestation realm. But at that moment, the strength, especially their battle skills, exceeded everyone's imagination. Location locked. Aura of the monster horde. A top-level emergency request. A series of orders was quickly issued. Soon after, an old man's sonorous voice rang throughout Supply Depot number 160. At the same time, every Guardian group registered in the Alliance Hall received detailed information about the advancement mission. What's a top-level emergency request worth 1 billion? The Guardian Corps, who were hunting monsters in the wilderness, were a little surprised when they received the vibration of the Guardian Corps token. One had to know that under normal circumstances, the Guardian Order token would only be used in the Alliance Hall. The members of the Guardian Corps were also contacted with their personal Guardian Corps tokens. Why would the Guardian Corps token send a message? When everyone curiously opened it one by one, they all revealed a hint of surprise. An emergency request worth 1 billion upper-grade primordial crystal stones. What kind of concept was this? Any Guardian Corps member who arrived at the location within the specified time would receive 50% of the reward. What kind of concept was this? Men die for wealth, and birds die for food. Moreover, everyone knew that this mission had been issued to all Guardian Corps members at the Guardian of the number 160 Supply Depot. As long as they confirmed it, they would accept the mission. As long as they arrived at the scene, they would receive 50% of the reward. That was 500 million upper-grade primordial crystal stones. Although it would be divided among many people, it was definitely not a small sum. After all, there were only about 24,000 Guardian Corps members in the number 160 Supply Depot. How many could arrive within the time limit? Definitely not more than 1/10. If 2,000 Guardian Corps members split 500 million upper-grade primordial crystal stones, each Guardian Corps member would receive 250,000 upper-grade primordial crystal stones. Kill them. Let's go. After confirming their distance to the destination through the Guardian Corps token and knowing that they could arrive within the time limit, they were all excited. Are we going to save them? Pfft. Some of the solo martial artists above the middle stage of Blessed Realm also received the news. After thinking for a while, they also headed directly to the destination. When they saw the mission message, these experts did not think that Chen Hao and the others could last until they arrived. However, they were here to train and join in the fun. How could they not participate in such a good thing with rewards? A bunch of idiots. If it's possible to issue an emergency request, why wouldn't I? They'll be finished after 10 minutes at most. Before they die, they still have to ask the sect behind them to repay a huge sum of money. Soul Fighter also received the emergency request from the Alliance. However, in his opinion, Chen Hao and the others were simply idiots. At that moment, Soul Fighter's face was pale, and his breathing was extremely weak. However, he was still desperately trying to escape in the direction of the supply station. Although he was at the initial stage of the Blessed Realm, his ability to tear through the void and fly could only last for a few seconds. The terrifying energy turbulence in the chaotic space was not something he could withstand for a long time. Fortunately, it was enough for him to escape the monster's encirclement and save his life. Soon, some of the Guardian Corps members nearby arrived. However, the monster horde, which numbered in the hundreds of thousands, made them flinch. They were hundreds of miles away, and no one dared to take even half a step forward. They could only stop and wait for the other Guardian Corps to arrive. This is already equivalent to a monster horde. It's one thing for the trapped guy to accept his fate, but he's asking for help. Maybe it's someone with a strong background and a lot of money. If there's a glimmer of hope, shouldn't we fight for it? Even if we're surrounded, I don't think we can last 10 minutes. That's right. Maybe he's just paying us to avenge him. After half an hour, we should be able to gather more than 1,000 Guardian Corps members. Then, there won't be any problems. Everyone, charge over. As long as we reach the location within 2 hours, we'll be fine. Some of the Guardian Corps members who had already arrived watched from afar and discussed among themselves. However, it had been an hour since they received the mission, and the mission instructions on the token were still flashing. This proved that the person who issued the mission was still alive. Hey, brothers, if they can hold on until now, they might really have a chance of surviving. Since we've accepted this mission, why don't we do our best? Although we don't have the ability to fight against such a huge monster horde, we can still tease them. If we can distract them, we'll be able to charge forward. That makes sense. I agree. Some of the Guardian Corps members who were kind-hearted took the lead and voiced their opinions. Instantly, they were echoed by others. In such a situation, once someone started, the others felt embarrassed to take the reward for free and joined in. After a while, the Guardian Corps began to approach the monster horde from all directions. Keep digging, dig. Boom, 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 amidst the terrifying explosions, Chen Hao stood proudly, punching and kicking. His vigorous and pure true essence resisted the powerful attacks of the monster horde. At the same time, he ordered the members of AOT on. An hour. If the monsters were only in the primordial soul realm, they would not be afraid at all. No matter how many there were, they could not hurt Chen Hao. However, it was obvious that the monster commanders, who had human intelligence, joined in the attack after seeing that they could not defeat Chen Hao and the others. This directly put Chen Hao and the others in a desperate situation. The whole mountain had collapsed. Huyan Aobua and the others dug into the mountain and down with all their strength. At the same time, they set up powerful restrictions to resist the monster attacks. They took this opportunity to cover themselves. Even so, the terrifying turbulence of energy and the collapse of the mountain still made them extremely dangerous. The most dangerous ones were Qin Hao and Qin Shui, who were at the entrance of the cave, covering everyone. In less than an hour, Qin Shui was seriously injured and was driven back to the rear by Qin Hao. Qin Hao alone resisted the attacks of countless monsters. At this moment, it was not like fighting with Soul Fighter. Soft Sword Dao and deflecting force were useless. He could only rely on his strong physical body and vigorous true essence to fight against the monsters. He did not want to kill them, he only wanted to hold on for as long as possible. Qin Hao knew that he was in a race against time. Once he could not hold on, then they would all be wiped out. As for the others, no one could resist such a violent and terrifying attack. The cave was constantly being dug deeper and deeper, and was constantly being destroyed. Even though Chen Hao was enduring the majority of the attacks, Huyan Aobo and the rest were also becoming more and more exhausted. Everyone had sunk into madness, fighting against the heavens for their lives. Bang! A monster at the peak of the initial stage of the blessed realm brazenly drilled into the mountain. The violent energy caused the cave to collapse again, and the location of the collapse happened to be the place Meng Xiao was guarding with all her strength. Puff! Meng Xiao spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Ah! Fuck your mother! Huyan Aobo, who was next to her, caught Meng Xiao. A huge bloody hole appeared on Meng Xiao's chest. Huyan Aobo, who was covered in blood, trembled with fear. Without any hesitation, he held Meng Xiao with one hand and quickly poured his remaining energy into her body with the other. He knew very well that if Meng Xiao was not treated in time, she would die. I'll do it. Huang Wenxiu immediately filled in the position of Meng Xiao and Huyan Aobo. He crazily urged his energy and stabbed out with his sword, blocking the blessed realm monster that had penetrated the mountain. Chapter 422. Captain Chen, we can't dig any further. Jiang Hai was second only to Chen Hao and Qin Shui among the group. He was the strongest, and his digging speed was also the fastest. However, at that moment, he was covered in blood, and the web between his thumb and index finger was cracked. He held the sword tightly, but he could no longer break open the volcanic lava that was getting harder and harder. At that moment, they had already dug 1,000 feet into the bottom of the mountain. As they dug deeper, the volcanic lava became harder and harder, and his inner yuan became less and less. In the end, he was unable to break through the barrier at all. It was also at that moment that Jiang Hai felt that he was nearing the end of his life. In fact, it was not just Jiang Hai. Everyone present had fallen into a state of madness. They were fighting against the heavens, and they had no time to think about their physical condition. They broke through their limits again and again, but there was a limit to human strength. There's no need to dig anymore. Grit your teeth and guard the cave. There are 15 minutes left. Only 15 minutes. If we can hold on, we'll live. If we can't, we'll die. Bang! Bang! Terrifying explosions rang out along with Chen Hao's cold voice. Chen Hao was bathed in blood, and there was not a single spot on his body that was unharmed. He was like an undying Vajra. It had been more than an hour, but he gave off the feeling that he was a war god that never stopped. He had endless energy, and the power of his punches and kicks did not weaken at all. Instead, as the monsters became stronger, they became even more violent. The blood of the monsters, his blood, had already stained his entire body. This time, it was different from the time when he encountered the beast tide. During the beast tide, he had lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Now, he had only lasted for half an hour, but the injuries he suffered were no less than the previous time. After all, the beast tide would gradually increase in strength. Moreover, the monsters back then could not be compared to the monsters now. How could he resist the violent attacks of the monsters in the primordial soul realm and the creation realm? Poof! Ah, boss, brother Hao, Commander Chen. As he spoke, several extremely powerful attacks once again forced Chen Hao into a dangerous situation. Chen Hao blocked most of them, but one of them slipped through the net and suddenly pierced through Chen Hao's right shoulder blade. One of his arms was directly blown away by the raging energy and forcibly separated from Chen Hao's body. Scram! Bang! Chen Hao did not seem to notice that his right arm had disappeared. He threw a punch with his left hand, and the vast and pure energy seemed to condense into a sharp sword light. With the will of the destructive sword, it directly blew up the head of the monster at the peak of the initial stage of the blessed realm. Don't worry about me, just hold on. Don't worry, even if you all die, I won't die. Seeing that everyone was about to rush out, Chen Hao stopped them. Guard the cave. We only need 15 minutes. Boss, let us fight to the death. Let us die in battle. Kill his mother. Kill as many as you can. Boss. I don't want to die like this. I want to die in battle. Everyone, guard the cave. Listen to boss. The heavily injured Chen Shui gritted her teeth and stopped the madness of the others. She said telepathically, Brother Hao has the immortal bloodline. If we can hold on, we'll be of great help to Brother Hao. Oh my God, is this kid still human? He's only at the advanced stage of the primordial spirit realm, and yet he has such terrifying combat power. It's unbelievable. He's only 22 years old, and his cultivation level is not very outstanding. However, his combat power is absolutely terrifying. He's definitely a monstrous super genius. I hope they can hold on. These young people are not simple. At least, I've never seen such a cohesive group. Impossible. There are still 15 minutes left, and Qin Hao will lose his arm. What a pity. In the Alliance Hall's cabinet at supply point 160, a huge screen was showing Qin Hao's bloody figure in the battle. After receiving Proud Heaven's call for help and connecting to Qin Hao, all the workers in the Alliance stopped what they were doing and stared at the situation on the screen. No one expected Qin Hao and the others to hold on until now. They also did not expect Qin Hao, a cultivator at the late-stage primordial soul realm, to be able to display such terrifying combat power and tenacity. It could only be described as a miracle that they could hold on until now. Who sent the emergency call for help? Just as everyone was feeling sorry for Qin Hao and the others, a calm and old voice suddenly sounded in everyone's ears. Ah! Greetings, Guild Leader Meng. Everyone was shocked. They immediately looked at the old man who had appeared silently behind them. They bowed and made way for him. This old man was the guild leader of supply point 160, Meng Yichong. He was the highest leader here and had a high cultivation base. Guild leader Meng, this is a third-level guardian group called Ao Tian. One of them is a disciple of Winter Plum Hall of Wuji Immortal Palace. Their leader is Qin Hao, a leader of the younger generation from the eastern continent. There are also two other disciples, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu of Winter Plum Hall of Wuji Immortal Palace. Both of them are not members of Ao Tian. The person in charge of the cabinet hurriedly introduced them to the old man respectfully. What a fierce battle! Meng Yichong only took a glance and a hint of surprise appeared on his face. They have already held on for more than an hour. In another 15 minutes, the Guardian group will definitely rush over and attack. But I'm afraid. Guild leader, it would be a pity if these teenagers, especially Qin Hao and Qin Shui, died. The person in charge of the cabinet carefully looked at the guild leader whose eyes were fixed on the screen and said, the teenager who is fighting is Qin Hao. He's 22 years old and is at the late-stage primordial soul realm. However, he has super strong combat power. Ordinary mid-stage blessed realm experts are no match for him. Once such a person grows up, I'm afraid he will become a top expert in the boundless continent. Is that so? Did he join any forces? Meng Yichong asked. No. He's just from the eastern continent. That should be the case. The person in charge was not sure. After all, the information he had obtained was only superficial information. As for whether or not Qin Hao had joined any other major forces, he didn't know. It's a pity that they probably can't hold on any longer. President Meng, I'll go and take a look. Meng Yichong said after pondering for a while. Hiss. After he finished speaking, he disappeared in front of everyone. Phew. We're saved. With guild leader Meng here, there's definitely no problem. I hope they can hold on for a few more minutes. Seeing this scene, the staff in the hall heaved a sigh of relief. Although they had nothing to do with Qin Hao and the others, after watching for more than an hour, the strength and cohesiveness displayed by Qin Hao and the others had infected them. Unfortunately, they did not have the ability to save Qin Hao. Even if the person in charge here was at the peak of the late-stage blessed realm, he could not do it. It was not a problem to tear through the void and fly there, but by the time they arrived, they would have been severely injured. How could they save someone when they were surrounded by hundreds of thousands of monsters? Moreover, Blessed Realm experts did not have the ability to break through the space barrier and fly with others. Only those who had surpassed the Blessed Realm and reached the human immortal realm would have the ability to save someone. Meng Yicheng had such an ability. Time's almost up. Go, go, go. Kill. Brothers, let's go. Just as Meng Yicheng tore through the space barrier and headed toward the place where Chen Hao and the others were, the thousands of guardians who had gathered together finally began to move at the same time. It had to be said that the army of hundreds of thousands of monsters made none of them dare to take risks. Moreover, if there was no huge reward in front of them, they would not have taken action until now. The reason was simple. The hunter would shoot the bird that stuck out. Who would dare to be the first to attack? They would probably become the target of the monster's siege. Now, the 2-hour time limit for the task was approaching. Everyone knew that they had to take action. Otherwise, they would not be able to reach the destination within the time limit and would lose the right to receive the task reward. Boom, 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 kill. The guardians from all directions used their magical powers and began to approach Chen Hao and the others in a frenzy almost at the same time. But, even so, it did not reduce the pressure on Chen Hao and the others. In more than an hour, Chen Hao's ferocity had completely angered the monsters, especially those who had been killed by Chen Hao. They were even more fearless as they pressed toward Chen Hao. Monsters were like humans. In order to protect his brothers and sisters, Chen Hao hunted them crazily. However, the more he killed, the more ferocious the monster horde became. They were determined to kill Chen Hao. Otherwise, with countless cultivators surrounding them, how could these monster commanders, who possessed human intelligence, not leave? Get lost. Go to hell. Angry roars burst out from the gaps of Chen Hao's teeth. The pressure he had never felt before caused Chen Hao to fall into true madness. Intense pain came from his body, especially from his broken arm. It was like a sharp knife stabbing into his soul. However, this pain made the blood in Chen Hao's body surge and burn even more. It was like the stimulation of a secret technique, causing his potential and limits to break through again and again. There was no way out. At this moment, he was not only fighting for his own life. Behind him, there was also his beloved woman and his most cherished brothers and sisters. How could he fall? Chen Hao's hot-blooded and burning fighting spirit was like the final bloom of his life. His soul, his body, his true essence, and even his every cell had transformed into Chen Hao's strength. Every attack, every eruption, he was at his strongest. With the support of his obsession, his severed arm and blood-soaked body was filled with an aura that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. It wasn't because of the blood mist, but because of the essence energy that erupted from him. He looked like a burning flame, a flame of anger. Chen Hao did not know that in the depths of his mind, his soul palace had already become a destructive fire that filled the sky. It was as if his soul was burning. Chen Hao only had one obsession in his heart. That was to block all the monsters, block all the attacks. Kill, kill, kill. He did not realize that even though his vital essence had been exhausted, it was still endlessly growing at a terrifying speed. Recommended a new book by a friend, Scarlet Blood Soaring Clouds. His dantian was damaged and he could not cultivate. In his moment of despair, he coincidentally obtained a golden ball. From then on, he walked on a different path of cultivation. Cultivation? You have a dantian, but I have a peerless scarlet bone. Scarlet blood runs rampant under the heavens. Pills. I have countless pill recipes in my mind. I can refine all the best quality pills. With endless blood, I single-handedly forged the legend of the scarlet blood. If you like it, you can go and support me. Thank you. Chapter 423. In Chen Hao's mind, the mysterious existence, the spirit of the treasure hunter sword, Ito Ta, and the 5 godly beasts all fell into madness along with Chen Hao's madness. This wasn't the burning of life but the blooming of the hidden power of the soul. After 1 year, the space in Chen Hao's mind had expanded by more than 3 times. The immortal fruit tree had roots in the spiritual spring, and its branches and leaves covered the entire space. The mutated immortal fruits had turned golden and were shining brightly. They were constantly inhaling and exhaling large amounts of spiritual energy from the heaven and earth. The spiritual spring nourished the tree, and the tree nourished the spiritual spring. At this moment, the spiritual spring was surging, and the spirit tree was swaying. Even the stones in the origin space were emitting extremely pure origin energy. Under the full control of the mysterious existence, the spirit of the treasure hunter sword, and Ito Ta, they were constantly replenishing the energy that Chen Hao had consumed. Puff! Puff! In the narrow cave, although Chen Hao had blocked most of the most powerful attacks, he couldn't resist the crazy oppression of all the monsters. Unable to go any further, the group of people couldn't go any further. They struggled to hold on to the last bit of space and spat out mouthfuls of essence blood. Bastard, don't worry about me. Let me go. Meng Xiao, who had been severely injured and was on her last breath, struggled and cursed as Huyan Aobo continuously poured his vital essence into her body. She didn't want to be a burden to the others, but her struggles and cries were so powerless. Bitch, shut up. Huyan Aobo cursed with blood spurting out of his mouth. Boss said that he doesn't want any of us to die. If we die together. Before I die, you can't die even if you want to. Hold on. Boss is all ready. What reason do we have not to hold on? Dash. The first king roared furiously, and his body emitted beams of golden light. An extremely horrifying aura of an ancient ferocious beast surged out of his body violently. In an instant, his huge body seemed to have a momentary recovery of consciousness. Billowing energy gushed out of his body and resisted the shrinking cave. Hold on. Hold on. Fuck them. Puff. Good heavens. The Mad Demon Realm. It's the legendary Mad Demon Realm. No one knew that, at some point, an old man had been hiding in the air above the countless flying beasts. There was a trace of surprise in his eyes as he paid attention to the actions of Chen Hao and the others. However, he did not make a move. If I were to make a move, I would naturally be able to save them. However, at this moment, every single one of them has fallen into the legendary state of madness. It is something that can only be chanced upon by luck. The Berserk Demon Realm was a realm that cultivators yearned for even in their dreams. It would only appear when one was on the verge of death or when one's life was in great danger. Furthermore, one had to break through one's own limits time and time again before they could appear. How difficult was that? Once one encountered a life and death crisis, it meant that one was on the brink of death. Breaking through one's limits once meant that there were 2 outcomes. One was to survive the danger, and the other was to die. No matter which one it was impossible to encounter the legendary demonic realm. Not to mention breaking through one's limits time and time again. One could imagine how rare it was to enter the Berserk Devil realm. Once a cultivator entered this state, their soul, physical body, and even most of their innate comprehension would be greatly improved. In this state, the cultivator would forget about life and death, forget about everything. The only thing that supported them was the obsession to survive. Burning their physical body, burning their soul, and burning themselves. Once they successfully survived the danger, the cultivator's soul, will, and physical body would all be improved tremendously. This was an effect that no immortal pill or spiritual medicine had. It was even rarer and more precious than the epiphany that cultivators yearned for in their dreams. This old man was the Alliance president of the 160th Supply Station, Meng Yicheng, who had rushed over in a few minutes. Even though he was at the peak of the human immortal stage, his eyes were filled with envy and jealousy as he looked at Chen Hao and the others. I'll make a move when they can't hold on any longer. Otherwise, it would be a pity. All of them are good seedlings, especially this Chen Hao. Meng Yicheng's divine consciousness had already locked onto Chen Hao from afar. At this moment, the most dangerous person was Chen Hao. Once something happened to Chen Hao, he would have to make a move. Otherwise, everyone would die. Suddenly, Mang Yichong's expression revealed a hint of shock as he looked into the distance. Beep, beep, beep. In an instant, the guardian tokens of countless cultivators began to vibrate violently. The cultivators who were sprinting toward Chen Hao and the others with all their might, trying to reach Chen Hao's location within the time limit set by the mission, were all shocked. They did not need to connect their tokens to know what was happening. Run! Retreat! Retreat! The beast tide is here! Ah! Cries of alarm rang out. Countless cultivators' expressions changed drastically, and they lost their composure. A beast tide. No one had expected a beast tide to break out at this moment. In the face of a beast tide, without the protection of the supply station's boundary, not to mention the primordial spirit realm and half-step to the manifestation realm, even the middle and late manifestation realm experts would die without a trace. In particular, they were quite far away from the supply station at this moment. Kacha! Kacha! The weather changed, and heaven and earth shook. Terrifying bolts of lightning suddenly appeared in the void. Endless monsters swarmed out from the pitch-black cracks in space. They were so dense that they blotted out the sky like locusts. Do the heavens want me to die? Chen Hao, who had never despaired, sensed the frequency of the token's vibration and saw the strange phenomenon that suddenly appeared in the sky. For the first time, a sense of powerlessness and despair rose in him. Power. He could only blame himself for being too weak. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Boom, 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 boom. At this moment, waves of destructive energy suddenly appeared above Chen Hao. Before Chen Hao could react, the horde of monsters within a radius of 10,000 feet was reduced to dust by the sudden appearance of this terrifying power. Condense. Shik. The resplendent golden light was like a long river that connected the heavens and the earth. It poured down from the 9 heavens and transformed into a screen of light. With Chen Hao as the core, it condensed into an incomparably powerful spirit formation seal. Chen Hao, I am the Alliance leader of the Supply Station Alliance, Mang Yichong. This is all I can help you with. The beast tide has broken out, and I am also in danger. I can't save you. This boundary can last for 4 hours, provided that no monster commanders above Manifestation Realm arrive. If an elite arrives in time, you will still have hope. As for the rest, you can only leave it to fate. I'm sorry, an old voice with a hint of apology echoed in Chen Hao and the others' ears before it gradually faded into the distance. 4 hours, huh? Chen Hao, who had sunk into despair for the first time, mumbled. He seemed to have become a little numb. Boss, the pressure on everyone disappeared swiftly. They were also shocked by the sudden appearance of the monster horde and the elite who had only left behind a single sentence. However, they stepped out of the cave with calm expressions. Huyan Aobua carried Meng Xiao, who had almost fainted but was holding on with great difficulty. Leng Ningle's face was covered in blood and tears. She carried her sister, who was on the verge of death. The first king, Jing Tiangang, Bailey Liancheng, and Lin Hao, the 3 bachelors, supported each other. Bai Xiaomei and Gao Dazhuang, Zhang Rongrong and Tan Hui were also badly injured. When he heard the group's shouts, Chen Hao slowly swept his gaze over the faces covered in blood and wounds. Pain surged in his heart. Aside from Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu, all of them were brothers and sisters who had followed him for a year. All of them carried the hopes and dreams of their families, but now, they died before they could achieve anything. And all of this was caused by him. If he had not wanted to come here, would any of his brothers and sisters have dared to come? Who would have come? It's my fault. For the first time, Chen Hao, who had never lowered his head and was proud, apologized in front of his brothers and sisters. He mocked himself in his heart. What's the use of apologizing? Boss, what are you talking about? Even if we die, we'll die with a bang. I have wine here, boss, let's drink to our heart's content. In the next life, we'll still be brothers. Huyan Aobua hugged Meng Xiao, who was struggling between sleep and consciousness, and said while instilling energy into her. A jar of good wine appeared in front of everyone, and there was also a big bowl. Second brother, for the first time, I don't think you're trying to please boss. Zhang Rongrong was covered in blood, but it still couldn't hide the paleness of his face. Boss, life and death are predestined. I, the first king, can die with boss and all of my brothers and sisters. I have no regrets in this life. The magnificent first emperor's eyes flickered as he spoke in a trembling voice. He opened the jar of wine and placed it in front of Chen Hao. Boss, there's a legend in the cultivation world. If brothers are willing to live and die together, they will be able to fulfill the blood oath. Our bloodlines will be connected, and even if our primordial spirits are destroyed, we will still be together in our next life after we reincarnate. Boss, please drip your blood. Good. I, Chen Hao, won't say any pretentious words. Since we are brothers and sisters, we will meet again in the next life. Chi. To everyone's surprise, Chen Hao directly forced out a stream of blood essence from his heart and poured it into the jar of wine. This was the highest level of oath ceremony in the cultivation world. Only brothers and sisters who could go through thick and thin together would swear an oath with their blood essence. When the first king looked at Chen Shui gently walked to Chen Hao's side and held his only remaining arm. At this moment, she appeared abnormally calm. Before the first king could speak, she also forced out an arrow of blood from her heart. Soon after, she softly said, Lei, all of you come. Lengning Li's face was covered in tears. She hugged her sister who was hanging on by a thread. After hearing Chen Shui's words, her expression changed slightly and she said, Sister Chen, let us do it. Are you happy? Lei is very happy. God-grandfather will no longer be God-grandfather. Lei knows that sister is also very happy. Sister, you have to hold on. We will die together. We will always be twins. Just use my blood essence. But, Lei hopes that in the next life, I will be the older sister and you will be the younger sister. I don't want you to always give in to me, and I don't want you to die for me. Qidian has released an annual review. You can vote under the title of the book on Proud Heaven's homepage. VIP accounts have free tickets. Brothers and sisters who support Dark Mountain, please vote. Vote for this year's work, thank you. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for it on Qidian. Calm. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 424. Puff. Puff. Just as Leng Ninglu forced out a stream of blood, what surprised everyone was that Leng Ninghuan, who only had a single breath left, actually smiled and forced out a stream of blood as well. She wanted to speak, but her words were blocked by the blood that was gushing out of her mouth. She couldn't make a sound and the blood that was gushing out contained pieces of her internal organs. Hiss. Chen Hao directly came in front of the sisters and pressed one of his arms on Leng Ninghuan's dantian. Pure energy slowly integrated into Leng Ninghuan's body. The first king carried the wine jar in front of Huyan Aobua. Huyan Aobua looked at Chen Shui and then looked at Chen Hao. Seeing that the two didn't have any intentions, he braced himself and once again poured the remaining energy into Meng Xiao. He had never been so close to a woman, and he never wanted to be close to a woman. Even if he wanted to chase a beauty, it was just a disguise. At this moment, looking at the dying Meng Xiao in his arms, Huyan Aobua didn't feel any disgust. On the contrary, he felt a kind of peace and steadiness. Huyan Aobua had a secret, and even if he died, he would take it away with him. That is, he was abnormal, and the one he liked was not a woman. This kind of mentality appeared when he was very, very young. The root of it all was Meng Xiao, his fiancée. When he was 4 years old, he met Meng Xiao at a family banquet. He knew that she was his fiancée. Although he didn't understand the meaning of fiancé at that time, he felt very close to her. However, he was beaten black and blue by the rude and unreasonable Meng Xiao and a group of girls. She even stripped him naked and played with his little bird. It was also from that time that women became a shadow in his heart. I will follow you. Meng Xiao looked at Chen Hao, Chen Shui, and the sisters before finally looking at Huyan Aobo. Her pale face glowed with a touch of red as she weakly said, I only admire, boss. I am your fiancé, as long as we don't break off the engagement, we are. What are you talking about? I simply. You compare everything to me, trying to find ways to attack me, saying I'm ugly, saying I'm small here, small there, fuck. It's you who's competing with me, okay? Every time the family gatherings, you always embarrass me. Huyan Aobo's face turned red as he stuttered, forget it, we're going to die anyway, what's the point of saying such nonsense? Puff. Huyan Aobo blushed as he directly poured his heart's blood essence into the wine jar. You help me. Meng Xiao whispered. Puff. Huyan Aobo did not hesitate and directly urged his energy to force out Meng Xiao's essence blood. Then, the first king and the others offered up their blood essence according to the ranking. Everyone's faces were filled with excitement. They disregarded life and death and completely ignored the densely packed and crazily roaring monsters outside the seal. Commander Chen. Boss, can we? After everyone offered up their blood essence, Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu couldn't help but ask. He even changed the way he addressed her. Boss, we no longer have any improper thoughts about junior sister-in-law. We also want a boss like you, a brother like you, boss, since we're going to die, let's take them in. At least we fought together, the two of them, are not bad. Gao Dezhuang said. Yeah, without the two of them, I would have already. Lin Hao also pleaded. Obviously, after a life and death battle, everyone's feelings towards Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu had changed. Being able to die together is also a kind of fate. Hurry up. After drinking, we will use all our strength to recover. Even if we die, we have to kill to our heart's content. Chen Hao said. There was something that Chen Hao did not say. If the two of them could not do it, how could they have survived until now? Okay. Puff. 2 huge blood arrows sprayed out. Damn. Little 8, little 9, the heart's blood essence. Although we're going to die soon, there's no need to use so much, right? It will affect the taste of the wine. Bailey Lianqing saw Jiang Hai and Huang Wenxiu spit out a large amount of blood essence and immediately shouted. It caused everyone to laugh out loud. Drink. Voila! Enveloped by the first king's energy, the wine jug immediately split into blood-red wine arrows that accurately entered everyone's mouths. Let's start. Start? Boss, when do we start? Do you still remember what I told you? What? As long as you have one breath left, you can't give up. Just now, even I gave up. But now, I realize that I still have a lot of things to do and a lot of unfulfilled wishes. I can't die. You guys can't either. Let's not talk nonsense. All of you, stay alert. Swallow these first. Swoosh. Golden fruits that emitted a tempting fragrance appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Without needing to look carefully, everyone could feel how majestic and pure the heaven and earth's spiritual energy contained in these golden fruits was. What was more shocking was that it contained a vast amount of life essence. Mutated panther fruit. Boss. What is this? Although it's not a healing elixir, it should be useful. Don't ask too much. Swallow it. Chi. After the one-armed Chen Hao finished speaking, he took the lead and stepped into the cave that was almost filled to the brim. He did not have a treasure sword, and only relied on his bare hand. Suddenly, he took out a small knife. There was no energy fluctuation around him, but in an instant, pieces of lava flew out. The hard lava that Jiang Hai and the others could not do anything to, under Chen Hao's small knife, was like tofu, flying out neatly, piece by piece. This, except for Chen Shui, everyone was dumbfounded. In terms of energy consumption and injuries, who was the one who suffered the most? Without a doubt, it was Chen Hao. However, at this moment, in just a few minutes, Chen Hao seemed to be fine except for his broken arm. He actually used such a strange method to break open the lava. The cave became deeper and deeper at an astonishing speed. However, the entrance became extremely small and could only fit one person. Moreover, it seemed to be made according to the first king, who was the largest among them. If it was bigger, it wouldn't be able to fit in. 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, everyone's eyes were fixed on it. One by one, they swallowed the unknown golden fruit and looked at the huge rocks that flew out. 3,000 feet, 4,000 feet, Chen Hao's digging speed finally slowed down. Come in. Chen Hao ordered. Chen Shui and the others looked at each other. Without wasting any time, they jumped into the cave one by one and slid down like children's shuttles. When everyone had just entered the cave, the boulders outside, under the control of a powerful divine sense, flew in one after another and filled the cave again, causing the cave to become pitch black. Boss, what are you doing? Ah, what a strong medicinal effect. Just as Huyan Aobo finished his question, a vigorous and pure life aura rose up from his body. His almost exhausted essence, qi, and spirit were recovering at an inconceivable speed. Even the recovery speed of his true essence was multiplied. 4 hours should be enough for us to recover to our peak state. If we enter the beast tide, we will definitely die. But if we hide in here, we still have a chance of survival. As long as we can hold on long enough. Chen Hao said. All of you go into the independent caves that I have dug and recover to your peak state. Then follow me in. If you haven't recovered in 3 hours, come out and follow me. Go. Boss, this is our last hope. In front of you, I no longer have any secrets. Voila, more than 10 streams of spirit spring water suddenly gushed out from between Chen Hao's eyebrows. In an instant, it poured into more than 10 independent small caves. This is spirit spring water, a very pure and high-grade spirit spring water. When your physical body is completely in contact with the spirit spring water, your recovery speed will increase by several times. Boss, what about you? Me? I only need a quarter of an hour to recover to my peak state. Don't worry about me. Hurry up, don't waste time. Chi. After Chen Hao finished speaking, he began to dig again. The extremely hard lava immediately broke open again. Other than Chen Shui, Jiang Hai, and Huang Wenxiu, who could vaguely guess what was going on, no one knew how Chen Hao did it. In fact, Chen Shui could do it as well, but her injuries were too serious. Merging into the state of all things in the world required a lot of mental energy, and she did not have the mental energy to waste it at the moment. Time passed by, and Chen Hao's digging speed became slower and slower. Even he did not expect that the lava here would be so strange. The deeper he went, the harder the lava became, and the faster it grew. Even if he pushed his carving skill to the limit, he could not quickly capture the tracks of the lava's veins. It was not that the tracks of the lava's veins were changing too quickly, but that they were too fine. Great! Just the hardness of the lava alone is probably comparable to a middle-grade spirit weapon. Even though it had become difficult, Chen Hao became more and more excited. What did this mean? It meant that the cave's natural resistance would become stronger and stronger. As long as he dug deep enough, even monsters in the Blessed Realm would find it extremely difficult to destroy their cave. In this way, he would waste even more time, and what Chen Hao needed was time. When the beast horde erupted, experts from all walks of life would rush over to help. Once the beast horde retreated, they would be able to survive. 2 hours later, Chen Hao had dug 10,000 feet deep. At this point, he could no longer go any deeper. The entire cave was filled with terrifying heat. If a normal person came here, they would definitely be turned into ashes in an instant. Even if Huyan Aobo and the others came here, they would have to rely on their own cultivation to withstand the heat. But Chen Hao was not afraid at all. His physical body had been through the phoenix's nirvana and the tempering of the vermilion bird's heavenly fire, so he did not feel any discomfort from the high temperature. The only thing he felt was the heat. Phew, Chen Hao let out a long breath. After expanding the cave to a size that could easily accommodate more than 10 people, he finally stopped digging. Chapter 425. Right now, the toughness of the lava alone is comparable to that of a high-grade spirit artifact. Even commander-level monsters in the middle stage or later stage of Blessed Realm will have to spend a lot of effort to break through the lava. Once the monster horde erupts, its main target will be the supply station. The monsters here will definitely be under the command of the monster commanders that came from the other world. However, I've killed so many monsters, so these beasts will definitely not give up on this place. When he thought of this, Chen Hao's mind entered his mind and he said, "Old God, have you prepared the materials?" "I've prepared them a long time ago. We can start setting them up now," the mysterious existence said. Chen Hao, who had originally been in despair, did not have any way to survive. As for digging deeper, Chen Hao did not think that it was a solution. After all, no matter how deep they dug, they would not be able to withstand the damage from the monster horde. Forget about the monster horde that had already erupted. Even if there was no monster horde, the hundreds of thousands of monsters that surrounded them could easily break through the cave and kill them. Since they had already reached this stage, instead of wasting energy digging a hole, it would be better for them to recover peacefully and wait for the seal Meng Yichong had set up to disappear. Then, they would fight to their heart's content and die happily. After all, aside from him, everyone else, including Qin Shui, was already heavily injured. Even if he could dig deeper, how long could the others hide? Being killed in the cave like a coward was not what he wanted, and neither was it what his brothers and sisters wanted. Fortunately, the old god had reminded him. The lava formation here was definitely not an ordinary formation. It was a million-year-old volcanic lava vein. The deeper it went, the harder it became, and it became several times stronger. It was completely formed by the erupting volcanic lava. Like the deep sea, the deeper it went, the stronger the pressure. The higher the pressure, the higher the density and strength of the solid lava. After millions of years of condensation, it had absorbed a lot of spiritual energy, especially fire attribute energy. When the old god integrated a mysterious protective formation into Chen Hao's mind, Chen Hao's body suddenly flew quickly in the narrow space. A large number of primordial crystal stones and precious stones, obtained from the origin space, were constantly embedded in the cave walls in Chen Hao's hands. More than 10 minutes later, when the formation was successfully set up, the entire cave shone with a faint milky white light. A powerful protective seal completely protected the narrow cave. Phew! It's done. Old God, how strong can it be now? Monsters that are not at the peak of the late stage of the blessed realm will not be able to break it. This is also one of the phaseless formations, called the phaseless sky ceiling formation. Not only does it have a powerful protective ability, it can also block all auras. Even half-step human immortals or human immortals can't sense your existence. That's good. Chen Hao temporarily stopped the operation of the formation, and stepped into an independent cave that he had just dug out. With a splash, the spirit spring water filled a pool of 20 feet in length and width, and he jumped into it. With the recovery ability of my immortal bloodline, I'm afraid it will take at least half a month to regrow a severed arm. I didn't expect that one day, I could become Hero Yang Gua. Although the crisis was not over, Chen Hao's mind was much more relaxed. A smile appeared on his handsome face, and he thought of the classic martial arts characters on Earth. Taking a deep breath, he, who was now naked, immediately entered into a state of cultivation and recovery without any distractions. Sizzle, in a moment, the spiritual spring surrounding Chen Hao's body rolled and made a strange sound. In the recitation of the primary outline of the Great Tao, Chen Hao clearly felt that his recovery speed had reached an unprecedented speed. His spirit, body, and soul were like dry land that had encountered rain and dew, crazily absorbing the energy in the spiritual spring. What's going on? Even Chen Hao couldn't figure out when his recovery speed reached such a level. What made Qin Hao faintly excited was that he, who was completely immersed in cultivation, clearly felt that his soul had become even more crystalline and translucent, and the degree of compatibility with his body had even reached an unprecedented height. Could it be that this battle that surpassed the limit allowed my soul and body to have an amazing improvement? It must be. At the same time, Qin Shui, Hu Yin Aobo, and the others who were in the independent cave above were also filled with astonishment. They were the same as Qin Hao. No matter what, they never thought that their recovery ability would actually be several times stronger than before. At the same time, they also felt that their souls seemed to have been purified and had received a huge improvement. Everyone was sure that as long as they calmed down and consolidated for a few days, they would definitely be able to break through their own realm. They didn't know that this was brought about by the legendary Mad Demon Realm, who. After an hour, Qin Shui had basically recovered to her peak state. Splash! Her graceful and delicate body jumped out of the pool with crystal-clear spirit spring water droplets. Although her jade-like body was still covered with wounds of various sizes, her white jade-like skin was white with a hint of red. She was like a lotus flower that had just emerged from the water. Nothing could be more beautiful. The mutated immortal fruit and the spirit spring are becoming more and more magical. I really don't know how he did it. Qin Shui curled her lips, and a trace of doubt and excitement flashed in her beautiful eyes. The more she learned about Qin Hao, the more she felt that he was unfathomable. After quickly putting on her clothes, Qin Shui released a stream of energy and collected the remaining spirit spring water. Although most of the energy had been absorbed, it was still spirit spring water. It could be sold at a high price in the cultivation world. Immediately after, everyone walked out of the independent cave one by one. Everyone's faces were filled with excitement. Although no one had recovered to their peak state and the heavy injuries on their bodies had not completely healed, their spirits and appearances were completely new. What? What is this? When everyone once again went deep into the space where Qin Hao was, they immediately revealed a surprised expression. The bottom of the cave was circular, and its diameter was only 100 feet. However, the cave was filled with a faint seven-colored light. There was no need to carefully sense it at all. They could feel that the air was filled with pure energy of various attributes. These energies were emitted by the various colored crystals embedded in the walls of the cave. This should be set up by the boss, right? Fuck. To think that we always thought that the boss was poor. If we took these crystals out to sell, how much could they be sold for? These crystals are definitely top-notch materials for refining equipment. 108 crystals. Let's not talk about these crystals. The golden fruit and the spirit spring that the boss gave us just now, which one of them didn't have a sky-high price? I feel that the golden fruit is a spirit treasure of heaven and earth that can increase one's lifespan by dozens of years. Look, it has only been a little more than 2 hours, and our essence, energy, and spirit have completely recovered. If it weren't for our heavy injuries, we would have already returned to our peak state. Everyone looked at the layout of the cave and was a little dumbfounded. Only Qin Shui could maintain her composure. This was not a secret to her. Maybe we really won't die. Boss used such a precious item to set up a formation. How strong do you think it will be? Bailey Lianqing said. The temperature here is 100 times higher than the outside world. Look at this lava. It's clearly a fire attribute high-grade mineral vein. Little 8, why don't you test the hardness? Hu Yin Aobo looked at Jiang Hai and said. Although Qin Shui's cultivation was the highest among them, Hu Yin Aobo did not dare to order his sister-in-law around. He could only find the strongest Jiang Hai. When Jiang Hai heard Hu Yin Aobo's words, he was a little depressed. After all, he was an expert second only to Qin Hao and Qin Shui. However, he could only be ranked 8th. But he could only accept it, there's no need to test it. I can't even move the ones above, not to mention this place. Just based on my feeling, the hardness of this lava is probably comparable to a middle grade or even a high grade spirit treasure. With the addition of the boss's formation, we might really be able to survive. That's right. The hardness of this lava is comparable to a high-grade spirit treasure. But you guys are too optimistic. Hiss. At this moment, the one-armed hero Chen Hao suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Except for one arm, he looked refreshed and energetic. There was no sign of any injury at all. This formation is also one of the phaseless formations, the major phaseless sky ceiling formation. It has an extremely strong defensive ability and can completely conceal our presence. But the consumption is astonishing. Give us all your primal crystal stones. We might be trapped here for many days. The number of primal crystal stones will determine how long our formation can last. And this is without the help of the peak of the late stage of the Blessed Realm and the half-step human Celestial Realm monster commanders. The situation is not optimistic. Yes. Hiss. Without any hesitation, everyone handed over their storage rings one by one. They did not hide anything. Little Snow, Huan Huan, Lei Lei, and I will be in one group. Aobua, Xiao, Shiwang, Tian Gang, Lian Cheng, Lin Hao, you six will be in the second group. Jiang Hai, Huang Wenxiu, De Zhuang, Xiao Mei, Rong Rong, Xiao Hui, you six will be in the third group. The three of us will take turns to guard, just in case. You two groups will try your best to heal your injuries. Little Snow, Huan Huan, Lei Lei, you also try your best to recover. For the time being, I can do it alone. Yes. When it was almost 4 hours, Chen Hao activated the formation. Chen Hao's powerful soul perception had already sensed the situation in the outside world. Although Meng Yicheng had said that his protective seal could last for 4 hours, it had not even been 4 hours yet, but it was already on the verge of collapse. The monsters outside the seal were far more powerful than expected. Moreover, they were more advanced than when they were fighting. What did this mean? It meant that the level of this monster tide was probably very terrifying. Outside the cave, the terrifying monster tide came in waves. Countless cultivators who did not manage to escape in time became the targets of the monsters. Some cultivators who were lucky enough to escape from the monsters' encirclement desperately fled to the supply point. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.